Shalom, family. Sorry. Just trying to get everything on and going. I'm having an issue with Wi-Fi for TikTok. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. Okay, well, we'll try something different, see what happens. I don't know why we're having this signal issue, but hopefully we'll get this together. I'm sorry, I'm all wrinkled up. All right, sorry about this. Hopefully we'll get this together. I've been trying to get this signal together for see if we can get the signal together for TikTok. I'm not sure. So mic check 1 2. I guess just let me know if you guys can hear and see me all right, wherever you might be joining us from. Have a little bit of issue with signal from one of the Wi-Fi. That signals that we're using, the one I usually use for TikTok, we have a little bit of issue. So I'm not sure if you guys can see or hear me. All right. So if you're on TikTok, let me know if you can hear me. All right. If I have to switch, I'll try to switch to something else. Prayerfully, you guys can hear me. You can hear me? All right. Can you hear me on YouTube, Facebook? Alrighty, well, we'll start. If we have issues on TikTok, you guys just let me know. Because even sometimes when it says that the signal is fine, sometimes the signal is not fine. So I guess you guys let me know what's going on with that. Prayerfully, everybody can see and hear us all right. And thank you all for being on today. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and get started. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahavah's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it is in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osaya nikitabuya, ohio. I see you. Manut, wagwan. Kamsa, kamsamida. Aloha, ciao. Akwaba, madase, etese. Jambo, Bimini Kofi in the Franco Katana Wewe, Boker Tov, Boker Tav, Grand Rising, One Love, greetings. I'm missing one. What did I miss? Oh, Habari Gani. Raishan Shalom, Haqadash Yahavah, and I to servant to Christ, Shalom. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, of being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Appreciate, love you. Thank you for being on. And we're excited and grateful and thankful as always to have everybody on all platforms. Hopefully you all are doing well. We are going to get back into our Neely Fuller Code series. Only announcement I have for us is, well, for this evening, we will be meeting for the 12 Myths of Christmas series, but it will not be at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time. Since it's family day for myself and my family, we'll be moving it back to 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. So if you can join us at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, we appreciate you. Thank you for doing so. We will not keep you up too late. And then tomorrow we'll be having our early rise of Bible study session at 6:30 a.m. Eastern New York time. So if you can join us for that. And our last 12 Myths of Christmas day should actually be tomorrow. So we're excited about what Yahavah's doing in his word and what he's done already and how things have been going. And we're thankful and grateful to you all for being with us and being obedient Thank you to the ministerial staff for getting up and praying. Those who couldn't be with us for whatever reason, I know we all have different things going on, but we are thankful and grateful to you all as well. And we appreciate you all as well. So let's go ahead and say shalom to everybody. Then we're going to get back into our book. It's been a minute. We're going to go back to, we've been in our Neely Fuller Code series, but we didn't go into the book per se. We didn't read straight out the book the last couple of sessions on yesterday and Friday. So we'll be jumping back in and reading through the book. It is called the United Independent Compensatory Code System the United Independent Compensatory Code /System/Concept. It's by Neely Fuller Jr., Neely Fuller Jr., Neely Fuller Jr. You can find it by just looking up Neely Fuller Jr. PDF. That's the one I'll be using. I am using one with a bunch of advertisements, but I'm using it so that we all can kind of be on the same page as far as advertisements and all that stuff. So if I'm dealing with it, I'll be dealing with the same thing you'll be dealing with, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So we'll be scrolling through quite a bit. And as I've been saying with this series, we really won't be dealing with this whole book. Obviously, if you've read the book, if you've seen how long it is, if you got an audiobook, whatever the case might be, it is quite long, right? Quite long, and it's designed for you to read it in its entirety. So just know that if you're going to get into the book, be prepared to go, do a lot of reading. And so we're doing our best to catch some of the just a few spots here or there. So obviously we're not reading through the book in its entirety. We'll do our best to try and complete the book sometime around, I guess, probably what they call, I won't use the term, but you guys know what it is, the eve or whatever. But December 24th will probably be our last time going through it. December 25th, we'll actually be talking about the truth about Christmas. So that'll be that. And then we'll actually start a series, which really can be a lot of Q&A as well. But we'll start talking about Shabbat. And there's some things that we want to start keeping and being meticulous with when it comes to Shabbat. So we're going to ensure that we have conversation about Shabbat and make sure that we talk about what it is that we at SOC believe and what we're going to be getting into. So just kind of be ready for that. But we're thankful and grateful to everybody for being on. Appreciate you. Thank you for spending some time with us and giving us some of your time. Hopefully this will be something that blesses you. We are going back into the series, and the series that deals a lot with racism, is dealing straight up with racism, white supremacy. So we want to ensure that when we're talking through this stuff, that we're having actual, real deal, big time conversation. Okay. So we're going to, if you want to turn in the book with us, we're going to be going to page 100. These advertisements getting me. We're going to be going to where do we want to start, y'all? Haqadash, where do you want to go? I think we're going to be in the 140s. There's a lot that we're going to be going through today. Sundays we normally go a little longer anyways, but I'm just trying to figure out where we want to start. And we'll be getting ready to do our Bible pledge in just a little bit, by the way, as well. So if you want to go ahead and join us, if you can stand to your feet in reverence of Yahavah's word, thank you for doing so. We'll be doing that in just a little bit. If you want to put your right hand in the air, your device, or put your Bible in the air, just repeat after me. But I'm trying to figure out where we want to start exactly. I thought I knew, but Holy Spirit showed me some stuff when downloading some stuff. We'll just start at page 150. All right, if you have we're going to start at 150. The edition that I'm using, now there are several editions, I will admit. The edition that I'm using, I'm going to start at page 150. So if you want to try and get around there, I'll tell you at the top of the page. If you have your book, 150, that's where we're going to start today. Or if you're just taking notes, prayerfully you're taking copious notes, whether they be mental or hopefully written with something like this. I try to do a lot of stuff in my head too. And as a musician, there's a rule that the shortest, the shortest pencil as long as or the longest memory is shorter than the shortest pencil. Something like that, right? So if you're taking notes, we pray that you're really, really taking notes. And now I'm having the issue with getting page 150 to load up. Wow. Why is page 150 not loading up? I'm not sure. All right, well, here we go. I'm about to say, all right, 150. That's where we're going to start. Page 150. We're going to start page 150. We're going to start right at the top of page 150. It says, where it says, no country, no government, no nation, no religion, no political body practices racism, white supremacy, other than those white people who practice racism. Right? So we're going to start there. Now, we're talking about Neely Fuller Code, so obviously there's some things scripturally that we'll be ready to go into if we need to be able to show why something needs to be verified or to show why something needs to be discounted, right? Neely Fuller is not the Most High, right? But we are using this as a code to be able to use as a thought piece, right? So, but that's where we're going to start. If you have a book, we're going to start at page 150, where it says, no country, no government, no nation, no religion, no political body practices racism, white supremacy, other than those white people who practice racism. That's where we're starting. Out the gate. I'm on. All right. So prayerfully, you're able to stand to your feet and reverence Yahavah's word. We're going to go ahead and say our Bible pledge, and then we'll jump right in. Also, too, while you're standing or while you're doing so, let's go ahead and say shalom to everybody in peace. Hello, Stan. If that's the best you got to do better. All right. But thank you for being on. I guess thank you for your best effort, but you got to be on, right? You be better. How you doing, Cole? How you doing, Dr. T? How you doing, Minister Shante? How you doing, Sister Beck? I guess Jack had something crazy to say. And hello once again to Stan. How's everybody doing on the podcast, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok? Shalom, peace. Excuse me. Okay. Shalom, peace. How you doing? Is it Pearl, Agnes, Minister Select Raj? Also, too, to the Minister Selects and some of the ministerial staff, you should have gotten some messages asking for some of you to be able to team up and help out the Minister Selects. You'll be getting more information as they're doing more training, and they might reach out to you about certain things. I might even tell them for certain types of training, hey, make sure that you get with so-and-so in your group. So just be ready for some of that going on, and we're thankful and grateful. How you doing, Sister Jennifer? How you doing, user 21073846851,000? I think I said hello to Pearl. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? How you doing, Mavis? Oh, you know what? Before we start, I'm gonna go and grab. We got the cookies. I tried to text you last night, Sister Mavis. We got our orders of cookies, and what was it? The peanut butter. I hope I'm not getting the flavors wrong. Was it peanut butter? Something like oatmeal raisin, and I guess sugar cookies. And then you also made the bread. So I'll bring it up in a second. I meant to show everybody that. I got it sitting downstairs. That's one of the reasons I was running late, to make sure I had that stuff set to the side. How you doing, Sister Shirley? Praying for you and the fam. How you doing, OB? How you doing, Kevin? Kevin White, just in case there's multiple Kevins on. How you doing, Shirlene? How you doing? I'm sorry, Sister Sylvia. Praise God for you. Hopefully you and Brother Ali are doing well. Is it 8? I don't know if I'm saying this right. 8X or 8 times, Mom? Twin Mama? Not sure if I'm in the ballpark with that at all. How you doing, Brother Rodney? How you doing? Is it Maeve 233? And thank y'all for the love. How you doing, Sister Greta? Everybody, come on in. Thank you for the love. How you doing, Brooks? Sister Michelle, J. Canavan, Keith. I'm not sure about this one. JULMICEAG. I don't know how to pronounce it. Please forgive me. But how you doing? How you doing, Sean? CLR Rob. Thank you, everybody, for being on. Appreciate, love you. How you doing, Quitta, Bronner, Lorenzo, Kyra, Nina, Jillian, Granny and Axe, Smoking Gunja. Okay. I gotta be careful saying that. They'll try. They take me down already. They think that they be saying I'll be trying to sell stuff on here. How you doing, Darius? Hola, ¿cómo está mi hermana Sherry? Gracias por tu presencia. Y tu vida en Cristos. How you doing, Scorpio? How you doing? Is it MF Babies? Everybody. Oh, MF Babies. Interesting. Okay. All right. How you doing, True Love Experience? If I miss you on any platform, charge it to my head, not to my heart. Thank you for being on once again on TikTok, YouTube, podcast, Facebook, everybody. Appreciate love you. We appreciate your presence. We thank you so much for being on with us today. All right. So we're going to get ready In a second, I'll do the Bible pledge and everything and jump right in, and we'll get into this book. Once again, if you want to look for a PDF, or if you have the book, we're reading out of the United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept. The author is Neely, Neely Fuller, Fuller Jr. We're going to get started. Y'all give me, I'm going to try to be less than a minute. I'm going to run downstairs. I'm going to grab some of the cookies and some of the bread that Sister Mavis has been blessing persons with, and we're going to do a little promotion real quick and just let y'all know how great the product is, and then we'll get started. All right? Hold on one second. All right. I don't know if I made it in a minute, but I just wanted to show y'all. We ain't playing at SOC. We be telling y'all we support one another. And for us, this is not just virtual, it's reality. So, y'all see here, Sister Mavis out here blessing us, using her gifts and talents. So, she made us some bread. So, we're going to get into this in a little bit. Got the bread here. Praise y'all. Some of these bags are a little lighter than what they were when he got them. We got three bags of cookies. Come on. I know somebody else said you already got some, and you've been putting the word out. Praise y'all. But she did her thing and cooked. They definitely cooked with love in them. Amen. So we want to go ahead and support. So we ain't playing around. Amen. And they're handmade, as you can see, handmade. So yeah, so she ain't playing. Since Mavis ain't playing, and we ain't playing either. So it is. I think she said a sugar. So I think, Sister Mavis, if you're on, I haven't had this yet, so I can't. I didn't make the order. Elder Alma did, so I don't wanna misspeak, right? But Sister Mavis made these cookies and everything for us. I don't want to misspeak on what type of bread this is. I haven't tasted it yet, so y'all can take a guess or whatever. Right? So we praise y'all for the gift. So like we said, it's not just virtual, it's reality. We believe in sowing into each other's business. But yeah, so I believe we got sugar cookies. I'm being honest, I was bad last night. I've been trying to do less sugar, but I didn't do that well last night once we got them in. But we had what was it? We had sugar cookies. I think it's oatmeal raisin and peanut butter. So, and all of them. I'm a type of person with peanut butter. I actually like peanut butter. I'm the type of person who will actually eat peanut butter out of my own jar. Like we got the jar, and I got my own where I have. It's usually for protein reasons, especially if I'm actually working out at the time. But yeah, like I'm the type of person. Peanut butter cookies, I like them, but I can only like do one. Like I was tearing them up. So, okay, Sister Mavis, you on? What did you hook us up with? Because I didn't make the order, or I think you just did this as a surprise to us or something. But what is this? So I make sure I get the word out and what you made. And how's everybody doing? Who's coming on? What's this one, Sister Mavis? Please forgive me. I don't want to misspeak. So I can't tell you about the taste of this one yet. I'm trying my best to save this one. I don't want to eat this without everybody. Oh, you put it in the comments already? Cool. Oh, ginger snap. Yeah, thank you. Ginger snap. There we go. Sweet potato bread. I thought, oh yeah. Alma did tell me it looked like sweet potato bread. Okay. Yep, so sweet potato bread, ginger cookies, peanut butter, Amen. And so some stuff going in. I saw you were down to your last time. I left him what you provide for you and your daughter for 5 months. Praise God. I'm on. So we want to make sure, like we said, we support one another. This is not just virtual, it's reality. So our goal is to make sure that we're sowing into each other's businesses and things of that nature. So, we're going to try and make sure that we get this book together for next year as much as possible. How you doing, Set Apart, Brad? So everybody who's coming in, appreciate, love you. How you doing, Brother Brandon? So we really, really want to support one another. We really believe in lifting each other up. And it's one of if you want to get out of racism, white supremacy, if you want to get out of a system that negatively affects you, if you want to get out of a system to where you don't even know if food is real, stuff like that, even with dietary laws, one thing I'll put out there, and having to take some stuff seriously, having to redo some things and rethink some things that I was actually out of order with the dietary laws, is one of the things I was even doing is I have to be careful with beef, because apparently we don't raise our own cattle. So if according to the law, you eat beef. And some of our persons might say I'm going too much to be a stickler, but since I wasn't being safe enough, I'm gonna be extra safe now, right? So apparently, if you're talking about beef and chewing of you can eat beef or cow, right, or buff, all the France say, but beef, you can eat it because it chews the cud and because its hooves are correct. They have to have both. That's why you can't eat, like for example, you can't eat camel. According to the word, it says you can't eat camel. Why? Because camel doesn't, besides you think it's dirty, it's nasty, blah blah. Well, cows kind of have some of the same stuff that you don't like about camels, but cows chew cud and have the correct hooves. You can't eat camel because they don't have both, right? So, but not all cows apparently chew cud, which I didn't know. So when we raised our own cows, you would have known which cows chew cud and which don't. I think they say 60 to 70% of cows chew cud when they're at rest, right? And if you don't know what chew cud is basically, it's not just that. Some of you think that grass or whatever is the cud. No, chewing the cud is that the cow has to eat it, and then when they're at rest, when they're at peace, or a lot of them when they're at rest, what they'll do is they'll have all the stuff come through, but then it might need to be chewed up some more, or even as a resting mechanism, a way of them resting, or a way of them, dealing with stress, anxiety. Sometimes even is like you might chew gum. They'll actually have some of the cud come up, and they'll chew it a long time right before they go to eating again or resting or whatever the case might be. So apparently not all cows even chew cud, right? So we got to be careful. But that just shows, like, when you were raising your own animals, you knew this stuff. So you knew which animals, were going to be animals that could be used for food. You knew which animals were going to be this. You would look at certain ones that chewed cud, didn't, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff that when you live it. And so in this series that we're calling Neely Fuller Code, this is part 9 of the series. In this series, it's definitely important that we catch and see, what's actually going on, and we start thinking about a system. And some of that system is as simple as, hey, let's get our clothes from each other, let's get our food from each other, let's make sure we support each other in our hopes, dreams, goals. If you have beauty supplies, especially if there's stuff for the diaspora, right, let's get it together. Different things like that. Let's support one another, and let it not just be, oh yeah, we give and we get the SOC. By the way, today's the 5 to 10 day. If you're doing the 5 to 10, it's the beginning of the week, for those who do 5 to 10. But yeah, let's support each other. Let's have stuff for the storehouse for sure. But we forget that as a community, that means that you put your dollar into your community first. So when we talk about these biblical principles, we're not just saying have faith and no works. Have both together, right? Okay. So anyway, let's get ready to do our Bible pledge, and then we'll start diving into today's message. Once again, Tada or Tawada, Toda. Thank you everybody for being on today. Teda, we appreciate you for being on. Right. We'll get ready to do our Bible pledge. If you want to just put your right hand in the air, or put your device in the air, or put your Bible in the air, and just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. In this will I trust. For Yahashavai is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yahavah. Aman, which is in his name, his Shem, his authority. Amen. Alrighty, we're going to go once again to the book, The United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept, written by Neely Fuller Jr. We're going to start at page 150 today. All right, so we'll start at the top of page 150. It reads as follows. Well, go on, Audrey, how you doing? So it reads as follows. It says, no country, no government, no nation, no religion, no political body practices racism, white supremacy, other than those white people who practice racism. So what we're saying in this, if we're going to talk about racism, white supremacy, remember, there's racism, which it means a system of competition. That's why you hear a person say white supremacy. If you recall earlier in the series, we made it a point to teach in the show, even out of the book, the author has the same mindset. There are different types of racism. So if somebody's trying to talk about, well, you can be black and be racist, blah, blah. Well, yeah, okay, well, we have to talk about racism, black supremacy, whatever you think that means. And you're going to have to do the research to pull something together and not just pull something out of thin air, but you're actually going to have to have qualitative and quantitative data if you're talking about scientific reference points that we can use to ensure we can actually show how it affects you in the 9 basic areas of human needs, or the 9 major areas of humanity, such as such as economics. How is racism, black supremacy tearing you up in economics, right? As far as sexuality, how does racism, black supremacy, if that's a thing, if that's what you're saying exists, you have to show me how racism, black supremacy affects you in that area. How does racism, black supremacy support you, messing things up in politics, right? The blacker you are, the more you get voted in, show me. Right? How you doing, Sister Kimberly? How you doing, Bold Servant? Right? How does racism, white supremacy affect you as far as jail? Right? As well, jail even has to really do with economics. Right? How does racism, white supremacy affect you as far as war? Being black and black persons and how much money we make off of war. You'd have to show me that. So if you believe there are different forms of racism, but if you're trying to tell me racism, black supremacy exists, you got to show me the quantitative and qualitative data. I'm not here to tell you it doesn't exist, because racism is different than racism, white supremacy. Once again, ISM ism on any word. We're just talking about a system, right? Race means a competition. So we have a competition, right? That's systemic or systematically put in place to make sure that black persons are supreme. Then show me the system. And by the way, you can say, well, in Kemet, even though it wasn't anti-white, but yeah, because it's the persons who were going to be up top, they were dark skinned. So you could say in a sense, but you still have to show me, is that a negative thing? Right? If a white person came into Kemet, were they going to automatically be made a slave? Like you know what I'm saying? You have to show me that. It's like when persons talking about everybody's been enslaved. You're absolutely correct. Every nation, well, not every nation, that's a little far, but pretty much most nations that have ever existed, right? By a large percentage, a large majority, most of us have gone through slavery. Has everybody gone through chattel slavery, though? You said no man nor woman nor Jew nor Gentile were all human under God. Well, God is not even a Hebraic or original word used in the Bible, right? The persons who wrote the Bible, God for them is just one of the sons of Israel. God is what you use, and it's a Germanic title that means you can make it whatever you want. So I don't worry about God as far as just some kind of weird Germanic reference point to say what I want God to be. That being said, the Bible, if you believe in the Bible, I don't know if you're coming from the biblical reference point or not. If not, then okay, maybe we can have a different type of conversation. But as far as the Bible is concerned, the Bible doesn't say that there's no difference between us. But yes, we can realize that we're all human beings. So me saying that my color matters and doesn't mean that color means I have more of a right to go to heaven than you. You said you capitalized God, you read in the Geneva. Okay, yeah, I know about the Geneva. That's fine. The Geneva is still not original. Right? If you heard what I said the persons who originally wrote it, that the Geneva is still a version. I like the 1611 King James version, right? I love it. Right? It comes after the Geneva version, right? But it's still not original. It's a version. That's why it's still a version. In the original language in which it's written, God is not something that you worship or someone that you worship, but God or good. That's why you say all the time God is good, or you say God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. You get that because that's Germanic, Visigothic language. That's what I'm saying. But see, your whole thing of being like, it doesn't matter what color you are, right? Yeah, racism, white supremacy tells us it does matter. So we should erase that because it shouldn't matter as far as your salvation, should it? And even those who are Israel, according to Romans chapter 9, verse 6, not all Israel is Israel. You got the Kepher coming? Sure. That's still a version. It's not original, but it's closer. And depending on what version of the Kepher, which really should be the Savad, if you're going to the original Paleo-Hebrew terminology, because that's not even going to give you the original, it's going to give you a dialect. Either way, though, it's better than a lot of stuff that we're doing. But when it comes to interpretation, remember, see, we don't like to deal with law either. But law doesn't give rights, law protects rights. Also, when it comes to law, interpretation, the definition of interpretation doesn't mean how you interpret it. It means what did the person who wrote it originally, what did they mean, who were they talking to, what was said, etc., etc. Yeah, even Elohim is a dialect. Elohim is original. You see what I'm saying? Like, Emmanuel was Amanava'ah. Emmanuel's not original. It's a dialect. If somebody says Emmanuel, I know what you mean, but also knowing the original and then knowing the Hebrew characters and knowing that if I keep Amanava'ah, I actually can not spell a word because spells are witchcraft, right? But I can actually use a word correctly in proper etymology. Amanava'ah, each sound is a character. Alav, or Aleph, right? I'll use the modern Hebrew term. Characters, because maybe you know modern Hebrew characters. So Aleph, Ma, right? Mem, Na, Nun, Va, Vav, Aleph, La at the end is really Lamed. So if I put that together, we have the source of all, or even the Father, right? Put in the water, blood, and spirit, the womb, Nun, one who is perfect. So the source, one with the source, one with the Father. I'm sorry, excuse me. So that Va, that one will be nailed. Vav, that one who will be nailed. Aleph, who's one with the Father. Lamed becomes our shepherd. That's his name. Amanava'ah. But you change it to Emmanuel, you might not even know what that means. So I don't even have to know. If I know the characters, you wouldn't even have to necessarily know the definition and still be able to define. You said the Lord judges our heart and he knows our words don't par with our feelings, brother. No. It's not about how you feel. Your feelings are valid. But the words mean words, brother. They do. And I'm not trying to be rude towards you. I'm just using the same thing you're using. If we are brothers, then as a brother, I love you enough to tell you the truth. Words mean words. Hebrew characters mean Hebrew characters. For example, what's the first word of the Bible? See, and this is what we're talking about even in this series of code. If somebody changes something, that's why the Messiah says you should not change one jot or tittle. He says, I come not, this is Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20. The Messiah, Sermon on the Mount. This is our sweet spot. We love this. We love the Sermon on the Mount here. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. I come not to, do not think I came to destroy the law of the prophets. I come not to destroy what the law of prophets gave, right? But I came, to fulfill. You look up that word, even in the Greek context, it means to live inside of, right? Fulfill doesn't mean it's over. Fulfill means that it's to be put into effect. Verse 18 right behind it. Until heaven and earth pass, you should not change one jot or tittle. I won't even go into the Hebrew. It's even deeper than that in the Hebrew. But you shouldn't change one jot or tittle. Right? Matthew chapter 5, verse 19 right behind it. Anyone who teaches that you shouldn't live by the law and they do not live by the law, right, which is part of keeping the jot and tittle, not changing anything, you are considered to be the least as far as the kingdom is concerned. But those who teach the law, not changing one jot or tittle, and live by it, they are considered to be the greatest. Verse 20, therefore you should know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. So I ask you again, like as my brother, if you legit love me and I love you, even if we disagree, we can still love one another. You don't have to like to love. So I ask you a question, what's the first word of the Bible? Right? What's the first word of the Bible? What's the first word and what's the first name of the first scroll? So to speak. It's really technically not the first, but what we know, if you're just only going to deal with the 66 books, when you get the Kepher, there's obviously others, depending on what version you get. But what's the first word of the Bible? Originally. See, you would say probably Genesis, which is not original. You're talking about Latin, Greek stuff. And you would probably say in the beginning, which is kind of sort of correct. But that's not correct. The first word would be Barashayat, in modern Hebrew, Barashit. But we would say Barashayat if we go to the Paleo Hebrew, the origin, right? And when you get the book of Jubilee, read the Jubilee chapter 12, and you'll discover in there that Avada, which is what you call Paleo Hebrew, is considered to be the language of all creation. Abraham actually had it downloaded into him when his father was getting off track trying to worship Nimrod and trying to make sure Nimrod was okay in worshiping idols. And when he spoke against it and came against it, it says that Abraham had downloaded into him the language of all creation. So Barashat, which many of you who do modern Hebrew, you call Barashiat. Barashat is 6 characters long. It's the first word. It's powerful. You ready? It's also the name of the first scroll. They both mean in beginning, because in Hebrew, we don't have a word for the. We don't do the. Okay? So in beginning, but you might say in the beginning. Okay, I'll give you that. Now, Barashayat, guess what that means? It's 6 characters. Bet, Aleph, Resh, Shin, Yod, Tav. Right? I'm using modern Hebrew sounds. If you did the Paleo Hebrew sounds, it would be Ba'ait, Alav, Rash, Sha'ain, Yavad, Tav. All right? But Bet, Aleph, Resh, Shin, Yod, Tav. What do those 6 characters mean? First character, Bet. Bet. Ba. Bet. Bet means the son who comes out the right family. Aleph. Aleph means the father, the source. Resh means the header. Right? Sha'ain or Shin, it means destruction or even chewing, right? Yavad, Yavan, means the hand that pushes in a direction, and Tav, it actually means the mark, places marked, finished, complete, and it also looks like a lowercase t. It also represents the cross. They would put Tavs on their head when someone says somebody was marked, including even Cain. He was Tav, he was marked. So you put that together, the first word of your Bible, when you don't use spells to spell it out, but you actually use the characters, and keep the character of the word consistent, guess what it means? It means the son who comes out so in beginning for us means the son who comes out of the right family, who's one with the Father, becomes our head by being destroyed, by being led by Holy Spirit to the top, to the cross. That's the first word of what you call Genesis, which is Barashat. So somebody who reads that comprehends that we're looking for a Savior. We're looking for Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and all these things together, a source of the Father and the Son being one, all this stuff being in the very first word of that scroll. So when you say he knows our words and what they mean and how we feel, the feeling can be based off of an inconsistency. Now watch this, it goes even deeper, because now this is code. This is why we had to come out of oppressive systems who told you that your code doesn't matter or keeping culture doesn't matter, right? So now take that word and let's go to another one that you're familiar with, where you were actually telling me about the word, but you weren't really talking about Genesis. You were talking about John 1:1. You weren't really going to Genesis 1:1, but you were going to John 1:1. What does John 1:1 say? In beginning, or in the beginning, was the word. Barashat at Savar. Right? Barashat at Zara. Right? In beginning, word, or in the beginning was the word. So watch this. Guess what it is? John's not being poetic, or John's saying, now you get it to a certain context. Yeah, go back to the beginning. That same word was in the beginning, but he's also using the word in beginning. He's using the word Barashat. So he's saying the very first scroll and the very first word of what you call the Bible, the 66 books. He's saying, go back to that scroll, Barashat, and look at the very first word, Barashat. And when you look at that first word, what do you have? The son who comes out of the right family, who's one with the Father, who becomes our head by being destroyed, by being led by Holy Spirit to the cross. Now that person is the Zara. They are the word. And even the word for word also means seed and also means sperm. Literally meaning that the one who created all, who's one with the Father, who becomes our head by being destroyed, by being led by Holy Spirit to the cross, has shown up because Mary said, let it be done unto me, and accepted the seed, the word inside her belly. Therefore, John 1:14, the Zara, that seed, the one from the beginning, the word became flesh and dwelt amongst us. Now, you would say that it doesn't matter if we know all that by that context, but it does matter, because isn't that even more so a case for us to recognize the truth of the word if we go back to the origin? I'm just saying, right? So we, it sounds nice to be like, it doesn't matter. He knows this. Why are you worried about this? Why are you saying this? It sounds nice, but words mean words. Truth means truth. Even if you're using something like the letter J doesn't exist in Hebrew. The J sound doesn't exist. See, so you're using somebody else's culture to try and put something in. You have the Geneva Bible, right? This is written after the Geneva Bible. When you look in Matthew chapter 1, Jonas and Jesus and all that stuff, that those words don't exist. Right? See, we even forget that what you call English is not even a real language. It's kind of sort of Anglo, but the Anglos were wiped out even by William the Conqueror. But it was already starting to happen even before that. They were speaking the Jutes, Jutes, the Jutes, and the Visigoths, and the Gauls, and persons who were actually the ones who lived in Britannia. Like they spoke a different type of language. And so even what you call English back then, it's just like in the same Bible you're talking about, there is no word under, it's wunder. Like wonderful. Right? So these are things that we're saying is like you gotta if you're gonna talk etymology and things like that, you gotta always represent culture. Which is why we're getting into this series about code, because in this culture you're in, you're learning something that's different. And somebody hears me say something about racism, white supremacy, if your first mindset is, well, we're all the same. Yeah, racism, white supremacy says we're not. So we should probably get rid of it. And we should probably talk about how satanic it is to tell somebody that they don't matter as much, or even their opinion, or even their culture, or even what they're upholding, or even the original version of something doesn't matter, because what somebody tells you now is more important than what Yah said from the beginning. We should probably squash that. Right? It's not just a non-Hebrew rhetoric, it's a non-kingdom rhetoric, and we should probably squash it. I wouldn't say probably, we should. And if not, we should definitely separate from that. I'm not here to tell you the lighter your skin, the less holy you are. I'm trying to tell you that if you are in a system that says the lighter your skin, the less holy you are, or the darker your skin, the less holy you are, or whatever the case might be, right? In this system, the lighter your skin, the more holy you are. That's something that's taught still. Right? In this system, the lighter skin you are, the more pain you feel. So if a darker skinned woman comes in and says she feels pain, technically in nursing books that they still use to teach today, that's supposed to be for healing and holistic medicine even and stuff like that. Some people still be believing that the darker your skin, the more prone you are to make up the fact that you don't feel pain anyways. So we should probably eradicate that. You said the Lord knows your heart? Yeah, he does. That's why he wants you to have truth. And if you don't believe that I'm teaching the word, then I pray that he teaches you something. But hey, be careful that you don't heap up teachers, right? 2 Timothy chapter 4, that you don't heap up teachers that scratch your ears, but that tell you the truth. Right? I haven't said one thing that you can't look up, by the way. Please look it up. Study to show thyself approved. Bring it before Elohim, that you can be what? A workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. The only shame that comes into anything is when you can't rightly divide. So just be careful you're not heaping up for yourself. This is, some persons do this on the Afrocentric lens to the opposite degree, and to a negative degree sometimes too, to where they go to a place where, hey, everything gotta be blackity, blackity, black, 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 and they miss the truth, because just because you black doesn't mean that you're truthful either. That's not what we're getting across. Matter of fact, if you know the original definition of the word Negro, Negro slaves up until the 1500s were considered to be different than African slaves, because they didn't just call everybody black back then either. You might have darker skin, but a Negro slave, even if he came from Africa, was considered to be different, because not all Africans are the same. Now, we have an Afrocentric way of thinking about things because of what happened through chattel slavery. We must, and we should recognize that there's power in being united in our humanity. That was one of the problems that blacks had amongst themselves, so-called blacks, right? But you got to recognize that Negroes, if you don't even know that, see what I'm saying? As far as words, you hear somebody say, I'm a Negro. A lot of persons don't even know what the word Negro means. You think that Negro or Negro means black, because the definition was changed. Just like a lot of you don't even know. So you'll say, how is it that you can go to somebody's country? Think about this, right? So you'll say, how can somebody, and this is a very great question, how can you go to somebody else's country and say you discover where they already live? Well, if you look up the doctrine of discovery that has been around since 1452, and once the last Moorish king of Spain was defeated, and then 1491, Spain, like it today, began to exist for real. 1492, Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue looking for Negroes. And 1493, the doctrine of discovery comes into full fruition and becomes official law under Roman Catholicism. What is the doctrine of discovery state? If we send somebody to a place and there's nobody that looks like us, nobody believes exactly what we believe there, then we discover it. It's ours. So, yeah, this was something that was put in even into the Geneva Bible and the King James Version and the 1590 version that I'm forgetting right now, and all these different ones that were out, this was a rhetoric that was used. And even for those of you who are talking about 1611 and all this, you don't even think about King Henry VIII. Where if you go into King Henry, and you got to recognize that he became the first pope of Protestantism. So if you're a Protestant, then you have a pope, right? If you're a separatist, you had to get permission from the Pope, and eventually the Pope came and sent other persons when they started to colonize, when they realized you guys learned from natives, right, how to operate after that. And that's where you even get this term predestination, because predestination literally is a concept used to say it doesn't matter how you treat others, because they started whooping up and taking land from other persons. And so when person said, "Oh, that doesn't make sense, aren't they human beings?" They said, "No, it doesn't even matter what we do here, because we're predestined to go to heaven and they're predestined to go to hell." So you see the manifestation of what's predestined. That's what allowed them to do that. So you don't even realize the word destiny and predestiny is not even originally in the Bible. That concept comes from somebody else. That wording comes from someone else. If you look up Romans chapter 8 verse 28, for we know, and we know, depending on what your version says, that all things work together for Tabah, was constitutional. Some of you said that use that term good, for the good of those who love Elohim and are what are called according to his purpose. Then what's the next verse say? And for those who he foreknew, he also predestined. But that word foreknew, even in the Greek, the word foreknew there is actually prognostikos, and the word predestined is the word what is it? Prognostikos, and the word predestined actually means priorizo. When you look up those words, what it's saying is for those he knew, he had forecasted were coming. For those who he knew, the word to know or to know, or canoe or knew actually means to be intimate with. That's why the Bible doesn't say they had sex. It says two became one. So and so knew the other person. That's talking about intimacy. To know something means to be intimate with it. So for those that he was intimate with before they even showed up, he also prioritized them, right? He was intimate with them, and he also what? He forecasted they would come. He also forecasted. Remember, if you get a weather forecast, they say it's a 70% chance of snow. They're not saying that there's 70% chance that it will snow where you are. They're saying that in the area you're in, 70% of it is expected to be blanketed or to be covered with snow, right? So if you go to certain places, you should look at the forecast, because if you see on the forecast, if it says 70%, it's saying that 70% of everywhere that you're going to go. Look on the forecast, look on the map, you'll see that there's little holes here, 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 here. Those are places we don't think it will snow at certain times, because obviously the weather moves, right? So a lot of persons are speaking on stuff and don't even study language. You're saying things that don't actually go back to the origin. Right? So that's why every word matters. Man shall not live by what? Bread alone, right? Even the matzah or the matzah, the unleavened, the legal, but don't live by law even alone. That's why, yes, faith without works has no life, but works without faith has no life. Man should not live by bread alone, but by every word, every seed, every zarah that comes out of the mouth of Yah. So if anybody's doing anything that is against the word, or you're not living by every word, not just the words you like, not just the words that they've changed, but you're not living by every word that is originally out of the mouth of the Most High, then it's gone. That's all we're saying. All right. So, but thank you for that, because that actually shows why we need to have what? A code, which is why we're going over this book, the United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept by Neely Fuller Jr. And what, like I said, we don't agree with 100% of everything he says, because he's not Yahashavai, he's not Yahavah, he's not Ravak Haqadash. That being said, though, there are some real truths about racism, white supremacy. And as I said earlier, racism is real, and racism comes in many different forms. But that's why we're talking about racism, white supremacy, which is the one that is overall. Right? And as I said earlier, if you want to talk about racism, black supremacy, feel free to do so. Problem with it is, though, you have to show me quantitative and qualitative data, and show me the word usage, and show me the coding that shows you that when a white person comes to a black land, they're going to automatically be eradicated. They'll be enslaved because they're white. They're going to go to jail more because they're white. They're not going to be able to own land because they're white. Show me. Now, there are some places where that existed. Like if you want to get deep into it, Haiti, when they won against colonial masters, they said if you're white, they were either going to take your life or you have to leave. But then you don't want to do the research and go, well, what does it mean to be black? Well, if you were fought with them for freedom and to not have slaves, you were considered to be black. This is why German Hessians who fought with the Haitians ended up getting all this land and stuff in Haiti. Why? Because they were considered to be black by code. Lawful, law, code is law, right? Codify something, it's law. They were considered to be black, not because of the color of their skin, but they were considered to be black because they fought for freedom. So if you were to say that's racism, black supremacy, sure, now show me how it affected persons who were white in a negative light. If you come and you try to colonize and you try to take the lives of others and people fight for their freedom against you, then is that bad? You said only the Polish? Well, maybe now. I'm talking about the Hessians that fought the Hessian. And by the way, if you're talking about, once again, you got to get into context. We're talking about all of them are Visigothic. All of them are Germanic, technically. If you're talking about the French, the Spanish, the English, the the Portuguese, the Russian, they're all the same people. Correct? Right? So yeah. So you can say, well, the Polish down this. I'm telling you at the time, right? Those who fought. So I'm just saying but I'm saying regardless of how you want to do it, you could call that racism, but then still fine, you have to tell me how that racism is more destructive or as destructive as racism, white supremacy. That's the focus we're talking about, to where racism, white supremacy has done more damage than any of these other so-called racisms that have ever existed. I know, right? Is it Q&A? Right? Well, that's what I just said. So we're in agreement. I think I just said that. Right, because they fought on behalf of freedom. So so their mindset is, if you fight on behalf of freedom, guess what? You one of us. I don't know how that racism can be, fought against. So anyways, so back to what we're talking about. So no country, no government, no nation, no religion, no political body practices racism, white supremacy other than those white people who practice racism. And if you notice what it says here, Neely Fuller Jr. doesn't say all white people. He said nobody, right, is part of racism, white supremacy. No country, no government, no nation, no religion, or political body practices racism, white supremacy other than those, and he has it in quotation marks, so-called white people who practice racism. If you're not practicing it, right, or at least if you're not making it, you're not a practitioner. You can actually partake in it. But if you're not a practitioner, if you're not somebody, right, who's a doctoring it, so to speak, and putting it into practice, then we're not considering you to be somebody who's trying earnestly to uphold racism, white supremacy. Once again, people hear a little snippet of something and you miss what's actually being said. Right? White people, so-called white people who practice white supremacy, racism, white supremacy, are the only functional racists. They function as racist, okay? So there's a difference, okay? All right. White people who practice racism are best known as white supremacists and or collectively as the white nation, which we know, white nation, we know what time it is. Even in Spain, they were wearing stuff that the KKK wears, don't forget, right? When they started dealing with Negroes in Spain, what were they wearing? Do some research before somebody gets upset, right? You said, yeah, he did 2 bears and 42 teens and blah, blah. Yeah, I've dealt with that so many times. Like, okay, I mean, yeah. So there's 2 teens, which, by the way, even back then, your manhood is a lot different than what you think of it to be today. But regardless, if that's the best that you got, I've dealt with that a bunch of times. You can find it on the recording at this point, right? I'm actually trying to get the point across, and you guys don't even want to talk about racism, white supremacy so much that you're ready to try and tear down what what a Bible verse to uphold it. Like this, we get to a point to where you're saying you can't listen to me talk about how we should get rid of racism, white supremacy, and how everybody should be treated as human beings, and that we should get out of this rhetoric to where we can't even get into the 9 parts of humanity because you guys are fighting so hard to be anti my belief system that you want to hold up the belief system of racism, white supremacy. Just think about it. Something wrong with you at this point. I'm just saying, right? So I'm gonna hold off on the questions stuff because now it's not questions for us to grow. It's just questions to interrupt. Like if you actually see where I'm coming from, like we have channels upon channels, we have stuff all over the internet. We have teachings and stuff. We have books on stuff. We have a lot of different things. You could go ahead literally and take some time out to look up hashtag FindKofi and look at a bunch of different things. You could go on our YouTube channel, hashtag FindKofi, and look up a bunch of stuff and see exactly what we believe, right? At this point, you're not trying to learn though. So for those who are trying to learn and grow, I'm gonna focus on y'all. Okay. I know Sundays we go a little bit longer. That's why I allowed a little more than what we might normally allow. At this point though, it's not even for growth. Right? All right. If you question just for the sake of questioning, I mean, what's the point? All right. Just being honest. All right. So here we go. Do not speak and or act as if you are exercising the power of command to others when you are in truth, only carrying messages from those who do have the power of command. Let me say that again. Do not speak and or act as if you are exercising the power of command to others when you are in truth only carrying messages from those who do not have the power of command. Now, for those of you who might not know, once again, this is a huge, long workbook. So I'm going to look up power of command for you according to Neely Fuller Jr. to make sure that you guys know what he means. Right, this is why we once again ask you guys. Well, I don't even know if it'd be really long. I'll say this. If those of you who have the book, look up Power of Command, right? Long story short, in racism, white supremacy, not everybody wields the same power as everybody else. So you have to know what power you have, how to execute, when to speak up, et cetera, right? When you have your own system, when you have your own, things change. But obviously most of us are still living in the land of our captivity, are still captivated by other things, and they're still under other rhetoric. Okay? But anyways, so the explanation of this, in a socio-material system dominated by racism, white supremacy, many non-white people like to pretend that they are in charge. We just lost TikTok. Interesting. They're still... Okay, well, I'm going to try and put you on a different thing and say that we lost signal. Uh-oh. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're just going to go over the TikTok channel, the original TikTok channel. I told you it's going to be one that's rough. It is what it is. They're saying that I can't go live on Kofi _ 43 until December 29th. They're going to say they're going to take 24 hours to let me know. So that basically they're not even going to look at it until after the fact. Amen. Well, I'm going to make a quick video. I'm sorry. I got to make a quick video. I'll just make a quick video and then we'll go ahead and start. I'm sorry, y'all. Let's see. Let me do a quick video real quick. All right, Shalom, this is Pastor Kofi. We're kind of interrupting the live session real quick because TikTok took down the live. Obviously, there's persons that were coming on that don't like the fact that I'm talking about dismantling racism, white supremacy. We made it a point to say in the video that we don't care for black persons being over white persons, that there are many different types of racisms, but we're dealing with a book specifically talking about racism, white supremacy. We've been doing this series for quite some time, using the same language, the same stuff, and TikTok has never had an issue with it. But for some reason, of course, as they normally do, somebody's able to go ahead and just say that we're saying anything and because they disagree. And TikTok, of course, continues to try and pull our content down. So I guess we'll probably take some legal action and stuff towards TikTok. But we're going to go ahead and be on Kofi _ 40, the original channel, and we'll continue to do what we've been doing. And, TikTok will deal with us legally later on. For those who did whatever they did, I guess you're dealing with the wrong person. She didn't win. Shalom. All right, Shalom. So, we're kind of interrupting the live session real quick because sorry. Down the line, obviously there's persons that were coming on that don't like the fact that I'm talking about dismantling racism, white supremacy. We made it a point to say in the video that we don't care for black persons being over white persons, that there are many different types of racisms, but we're dealing with the book specifically talking about racism, white supremacy. We've been doing this here. Okay, so I'll just post that real quick and then we'll start on the other place. I'm sorry. They tried to say that it was an internet issue. It was an internet issue. They even tried to lie about that. All right, let's see. Let me make sure I add TikTok, and then I'll deal with TikTok later. Okay, so let me just let that load up real quick. We'll get started. Sorry about that, fam. We'll get started in just a little bit. I just got to make sure it loads up there. But as I said, it's going to be a little rough. It is what it is. But we'll be on the original TikTok channel in just a second. But they're saying we can't go live, as of right now, at least till December 29th, which means that we can't go live on there till December 30th. It is what it is. Praise Yah that we have multiple channels. And praise Yah this gives us an opportunity to build up the other channel for a little bit. We don't always get to go on live on TikTok on the original channel that often anymore. Sorry for any inconvenient stuff for you guys. But as I said, as soon as it finishes loading, but yeah, so it's okay to say racist rhetoric. It's okay to say that, you're not who you are. It's okay to say, the letter J word and all that stuff instead of Yahashavai. But don't say that you should dismantle racism, white supremacy. But it makes sense because TikTok has to uphold racism, white supremacy in order to exist. I don't care if it's Chinese company or not. Right? So it is what it is. But that's why we say followers. By the way, here's an opportunity for me to let you know. TikTok's not going to go away. By the way, those of you who are afraid of that, TikTok going away, TikTok's not going anywhere. TikTok, first of all, is not even this decision that was made, even if they were to go through with it, they're not, because Donald Trump is actually pro-TikTok. He mentioned he was against TikTok. Now he's pro-TikTok. So all the Republicans are going to rock Donald Trump. And he gets a lot of his following and stuff through TikTok, so why would he get rid of it, right? But the thing never said TikTok was going to become illegal or going to be dismantled. I just want to let everybody know. So that was never the decision. If you didn't know that, and I'm putting up the other thing for TikTok right now, just to let y'all know if you want to come over there. But that was never the decision that was supposed to be made. And by the way, we're looking at starting a fast. I'm thinking we're going to start a fast. Maybe try to go sugar-free, or try to do a fruit fast, or something like that. Then for the end of the year, we had talked about it. We'll probably start it on Christmas Day, I think, right? Because hold on, Christmas Day was at the 25th. It needs to be 7 day, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st. Yeah, so we'll probably start it on Christmas Day, just to give y'all a heads up too. But hold on, let me get this back up here so we can keep on going. Okay. So for those of you who are worried about if TikTok's going to go away, even if it were to go, what they were trying to do in the law, basically they want TikTok to sell to an American company. They don't want TikTok to go away. They want TikTok to sell to an American company. TikTok's like, no, we're not going to sell to an American company. And they said, well, you guys are Chinese, and we know that all these places try to get information to other companies. And TikTok was like, yeah, that's what all the companies do, including other Chinese companies they'll do business with. And Google does it, and Meta does it, and all these places do it, right? So then they were like, yeah, but you guys are communists, and blah, blah. And we're like, well, and so what? You get your shoes done over here, you get everything else done over here. We get all the information and we get stuff through Google. Google sells us information anyways. So, but they were like, no, but we know that you guys are really doing something. This is racism, white supremacy trying to hold on something. They want the power. So eventually what happened was they were able to get something together. Remember, even Joe Biden and them trying to make sure that they were going to get Trump supporters. They were like, well, if everybody's talking about it's anti-America, we're just going to say it's anti-America too. So they voted, under pressure to make sure that the racism, white supremacy would win. So all those things would be there, right? So after that, with racism, white supremacy, what you see is, what is it I'm looking for? I'm sorry. So after that, what you'll see, what you'll discover is, forgive me, I'm trying to. Okay, so basically, long story short, they voted, but they never voted for TikTok to go away. What they voted for was that they don't want it to be on app stores. So if you have an iPhone, you can't go to Apple the Apple Store. If you or the Apple Store app, whatever. If you have another type of device, you might not be able to go to the Google Play place and get TikTok or whatever, but it would still exist. Now, over time, that means that persons in the United States of America would not be able to get on TikTok. That's if everything goes through. But since President Trump is pro TikTok now, he never really was anti TikTok. He was just saying all the China stuff. And so everybody was saying, let's get rid of TikTok. And he just kind of jumped on board. But now he's been voted back in. He's actually pro TikTok. More than likely, it's going to get squashed. That being said, even if they got rid of it, it wouldn't be gotten rid of. It would still exist. You just couldn't download it. So if you have TikTok, you just got to make sure that you stand on TikTok and you don't accidentally delete your app or you lose your phone or something like that. Hey, or if you get a new phone, just make sure you have your stuff set up where it can be updated. And even if without it, all you do is you get VPN. If you don't know about VPN, you get VPN. You can go outside of whatever the country's limit is on what you can and can't watch or can and can't download and all that stuff. You just go on VPN and you upload it, right? So it's still so TikTok's not going anywhere even if they follow the law. And even if they do that, there's an app called Lemon 8. I'm actually on there already. I just haven't been uploading stuff on there as of yet, but there's an app called Lemon 8. So if you go to Lemon 8, I'll be trying to download a bunch of videos on there pretty soon. And if you go there, all of your friends who have Lemon 8, they have to have the Lemon 8 app. But as soon as you go over to Lemon 8, it gives you everybody who has that app. It'll give you all your friends back and those who you follow, etc. So TikTok's not really going anywhere. The fight is for the information that TikTok sells. Just like Meta makes a lot of their money off of the information they sell. Google makes a lot of money off the information they sell, et cetera, et cetera. So TikTok's not going anywhere. Even if they were to say we're getting rid of it, they're just saying they won't download it. They won't allow you to download it. So as long as you get TikTok downloaded and keep it downloaded, make sure that before the day that they say it has to go away, that it's there, even if they do get rid of it for a second, because Trump's going to bring it right back, even if it's gone. He's going to listen to those persons who want it so that they can keep on worshiping him. So always, just to be aware. They do that like every year. If you haven't noticed, every year TikTok's a problem. Every year cryptocurrency is a problem. Right, it's the same stuff that you're supposed to get. Well, every year, global warming, it's going to be a problem. I'm not saying global warming is not real. I'm just trying to tell you, these are things that politically they put in front of you. Every year, we're going to have the reparations conversation, and they're not going to give it to you anyways. Right? Every year, you're going to hear the same stuff. But anyways, we're talking about racism, white supremacy. We're continuing this series, Neely Fuller Code. They're not going to stop it. It is what it is. But those who are looking for us to be live on TikTok, unfortunately, you won't be able. I'll try to check every day for y'all just to see. I'll have to wait until Tuesday to see if I can go on live. But just assume that until December 29th, which I believe is a Sunday or something like that. I forget when, but whenever December 29th is, or really December 30th. Until December 30th, more than likely, I will not be able to go live on TikTok on Kofi_43. You'll just have to look for us on the original channel, or feel free to come on Facebook, or come on YouTube, or come on the podcast, or, other platforms that we have. All right? So hopefully you guys can. Maybe we'll even use this as an opportunity to do some clapper stuff a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, so, it's important, though, that you catch this up. So, if somebody's talking about TikTok's going to go away. TikTok's not going anywhere. Even if they go through with it, it just means you can't download it. So, you'll still be able to, literally the day when they say we're cutting it off, you'll be able to come right on TikTok and everything's going to be fine. You just won't download it. or you can't download it if they go through with it. And even if they do, like I said, Trump's going to he's going to try to just bring it right back. And on top of that, there's that app once again called Lemon 8. So TikTok, it's a TikTok-owned company. They realize there's a possibility that you might not be able to download it, and so persons want to still be able to keep up with yourself, and you want to keep growing, or you want to grow with us. Make sure you get Lemon 8, Lemon, the number 8, lemon like the fruit, 8, the number 8. Okay. All right. How you doing, Brother Ali? So, how you doing, Brother Craig? So we're on, and we'll be on TikTok. It just have to be on Kofi_40, the original channel on TikTok, at least for a little while until December 30th. Because more than likely they'll do the same thing they always do. They'll say you said something racist because somebody said you did. They'll check it, but they're not gonna approve and say, okay, we were wrong about it until after the week's gone anyways. Because it is what it is, right? But that's why we talk about racism, white supremacy. And that's why we have to make sure that we realize even when we are in a system, technically you're still under somebody else's control. Right? At some point, we're going to have more stuff that we have control over, including the stuff that goes online and things like that. But yeah, you're always under somebody else's control. And you have to recognize that. And you have to realize that no matter what. Right? And it's something that persons want to say doesn't exist. Now, watch this. This is how much we haven't even really gotten into the book, but it's kind of given us, we literally can see. We just had a think tank, if you will. We just had a huge example of racism, white supremacy. Somebody could come on a platform and they could say, there's no such thing that holds you back. There's nothing that holds you down. You're free to do whatever you want, right? Racism, white supremacy doesn't exist. How dare you say that we are trying to do anything to hold you down and hold you back? And then literally, as they say, I've had enough of it. I'm going to use the position that I have to stop you from speaking. You hear what I'm saying? Right? Like, I'm going to use what I have to stop you from speaking. But there's no such thing as us having a power over you, right? But if I were to go and they were to say, that if somebody were to say, and they say stuff like that, they come on the app and they say, you black people have a problem, your culture is bad, this, that, whatever. If I were to say something about them, you know what TikTok would tell me? TikTok would send me a message back and they would say, you don't have to watch them if you don't want to. So I just want you to see, not just only the cognitive dissonance, but the being double-minded. Racism, white supremacy is a system that you have to deal with regardless. And there are persons who try to uphold the system. As I was saying earlier in the same live session, that there are persons that were getting so mad that I was saying that racism, white supremacy affects the 9 major areas of your humanity and that we should get rid of it. And they couldn't hear that. All they heard was me say racism, and then when they heard me say white, and then definitely when they heard supremacy, they lost their mind. They couldn't actually digest what was being fed. So they're so busy throwing up or having an allergic reaction to everybody being free, because the only thing that's palatable is racism, white supremacy. This is why it's got to be talked about. This is why it should be stopped. This is why it should be studied. Come on. This is why it must be stopped. This is why it should be studied. Literally, racism, white supremacy is something to where if you try to speak against it, somebody says, I need to come against you. And doesn't even recognize the cognitive dissonance in it. You see? So if we're gonna, when we say we got to get out the system, we got to come all the way out. This is why even in your Bible, Psalm 122 and Psalm 123, they read as revolutionary scriptures. Israel is a compact nation. It means to come together. Right? It says, we shall stand within our gates. Not everybody's gates, but in the gates of Yahashavai. This is for those who are grafted or those that are Israel. Right? It says that you are filled with contempt and that there are those that are at ease with your scorn. And it says that you must make sure that you realize that you're living by something that's as looking at yourself as something that's contemptible. You don't look at your righteousness. You look at yourself through the prism of racism, white supremacy. Right? Even the curses that we talk about. The curses have to do with you feeling a certain way about yourself and being under siege and making attempts to live under siege, even with the HBCUs and stuff. We talked about that before. HBCUs are not HBCUs are not things that are for us by us. They're not made by us, right? HBCUs are not ours. HBCUs are stuff that's made by somebody else. And so you keep trying to talk about racism, white supremacy, and how it doesn't affect, and you need to make sure that you support that. But the HBCU doesn't even support you. But if you were to admit that or say that, even your own people are supposed to be the ones to come through and try to wipe you out. Yeah, everything's controlled. So when Neely Fuller makes this statement, a lot of persons are so quick to come against it, but they don't even want to do some research, right? Like if we talk about affirmative action. Affirmative action helps white women more than anybody else. 8A, if you know what 8A is in the government, it helps white women more than anybody else. DEI, I don't even know what that means. Is it diverse something, whatever, the diversity hires? That helps white women more than anybody else. But the same white women that it helps and the same white men whose families are helped out by it, right, will tell you that you need to be upset about it while benefiting from it at the same time. Right? How much does the person who's into racism, white supremacy actually realize that benefits them? The thing they're using to say this is why, and I'm not Republican and Democrat. I'm not talking about Republican and Democrat. That stuff is not kingdom. That stuff is not biblical. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Okay. So diversity, equity, inclusion, no matter where you're putting it, that's not for your benefit. Right? That's not for your benefit. But if we speak on it as it not being a benefit for us, we're supposed to be bad. But it's not designed for you. It's designed for those who don't look like you and those who oppress you. And if you admit such things, then you're supposed to be the bad person. So, we don't want to have a conversation about that, but that's real. So in a socio-material system dominated by racism, white supremacy, many non-white people like to pretend that they are in charge and or that it is they who make the final decisions of major matters. Since it is true that they do not, it is incorrect for them to pretend that they do. Right? In other words, many of us have fallen for the okie doke where we believe that we have some kind of stuff. We're in charge because we're closer to them. We make money like they make. You don't make as much. We live in better neighborhoods than y'all live, but you don't live in the real come de la come. Right? I have more of their women that take notice of me because of my money or capital and stuff, as if that's a reason to say that you're a better person or not. And you start to believe that you have the ability to be in charge of something when really you don't. Right? You think that LeBron James is in charge until you see the N-word spray painted upon his house or one of his houses. Right? Letting you know, we don't care how big you get. We can get right on your stuff. You think you in charge, Drake, until all of a sudden we realize that, your time is up and we built you up and we made you as far as not just even your record label, but even as far as the distribution. Because persons actually get that wrong about the Kendrick Drake situation. Drake and Kendrick are not under the same label. They use the same company to distribute. Okay? So the distribution, the person who puts the information out or makes it to where you can find it or puts it on Spotify or even sells, if you still buy CDs and stuff, right? Or even buy some kind of disc, records and stuff like that. They're the ones who distribute on behalf of the company. Right, which you don't need. You need less and less help with that, especially since a lot of stuff is just going to be streamed anyways, right? But the company is like, well, Drake, we distribute your stuff. You don't distribute ours. So we're still in a position to take. And so Drake now, and all the stuff that's going on, he's fighting because he thought that he was going to beat Kendrick. And when he beat Kendrick, he was going to be placed up high. And he was going to be able to say, now, y'all had to pay me $400 million last time. I destroyed everybody, including the big bad Kendrick. So what you gonna do now? Give me my money. I want 700,000 this time. I want 800,000. Or 800 million. Excuse me. Maybe I want $1 billion. And you had to do it because you can't do anything without me. And they was like, no, we don't need you. They not like us showed us that, right? So you can be him and still think, and even though you can say somebody don't want to go, he's not like us, so that means he's not black. No, no, no. Like he thought he had the Jewish side covered and the black side covered, and they said, no, you don't come out of racism, white supremacy. We're in charge, right? Lucian is always in charge. That's his name, close to Lucifer, right? Lucian is always in charge, right? That's what they're showing Drake, and a lot of persons are missing that, right? Like you're missing that this is a thing of him fighting and thinking he gonna go against the system, and the system's like, no, the system is still a system. System's still cold. System's still cold, bro. You can't fight this. You thought you was powerful enough to go against us. They showing them you not ready for this. You you not big. I don't care who you be. You not right. 50 Cent. 50 Cent tried to go against I forget the one that he went. The name of the guy he tried to go against. He tried to go against somebody back in the day, and was it Leo Cohen or somebody, right? It's spelled like Liar Cohen, but I don't think it was Leo. It was somebody else though, and he tried to go against him. They said no, that's not how this works. That's where 50 Cent went. Y'all think it's just because he lost to Kanye with it? No, 50 Cent was still high up. 50 Cent was running stuff. 50 Cent ran his mouth and thought he was more powerful than the establishment. They said no. And that's when he said, let me try and start making some movies and some shows and stuff like that. Because he wasn't going to be able to do it. He's not in control. This system works. Like, here's the thing that persons keep talking about. The system doesn't work. The system works. It's designed. That's why we're really big on etymology and words and law and proper interpretation of said law, right? The system is designed specifically. When we say racism, white supremacy, remember there are different types of racism. Racism just means a system in which the race is set up, right? But who benefits from the system? That's why racism, white supremacy is looked at different than other types of racism. So when somebody tries to tell you, no, the racism's not real. No, racism's real. Racism, white supremacy is a different type of racism. That's what we're discussing today. When you get specific, persons who uphold it and see that they are upholding it, even if it's by proxy, they get upset with you. But rather than get upset with me or you or anybody else, they should actually get upset with the fact that they were tricked. And they should say, you know what? I'm going to be angry and sin not. I'm not going to miss the mark anymore. I'm going to become greater. And I'm going to make sure that I fight against a system designed to tear us all down. Salah. Right? So when it comes to racism, white supremacy, the problem is not me for pointing it out. The problem is that persons, like we said earlier, it has become so palatable, right? It's more palatable because you're used to being fed. Your racism, white supremacy, like chicken is better for you than chicken nuggets. But if you've gotten used to the breading and the sugar and all the sauces that come with it and stuff, it's real difficult to go back to just straight up chicken. I don't care how well it's seasoned. I don't care how well it's cooked. It's going to be real difficult if you living by them saucy nugs. Right? Some of y'all know about the saucy nugs, which ain't nothing but them buying frozen chicken nuggets and literally tossing them. And they don't even toss them that well, but tossing them long enough so that you'll be able to get sauce all over them and then giving them to you. You can do that on your own time and probably come out better by you putting it in your oven rather than whatever microwave they putting it in. Right, but you go over there and then you get all that stuff. But chicken is better for you than saucy nugs, right? But you'll get it first of all because it's convenient, and second, right? Like a lot of it has to do with lazy work. Matter of fact, I'll be right back, and we'll start from there. Let's make that salah, right? I'll say that again, and let's just pause and think about it. And I'll be right back, right? But yeah, a lot of this. Is because it's convenient and it's easy to have somebody do something for you. And I'm not just going to come from a black perspective only. I'm going to come from a so-called black perspective. I'm going to come from a so-called white perspective too. But just give me a second. Give me about, hopefully no more than 30 seconds. I'll be right back and we'll discuss it. Salah. Okay. Thank you for giving me a little bit. Just a little bit. So yeah, so and we're gonna talk about racism, white supremacy. And we're gonna talk about the system. You know, it's easier to deal with this. We'll even talk a little bit of sovereignty in this portion. All right, we'll even do a little bit of sovereignty during this portion as well. Right? So we'll talk about different perspectives on this, from a perspective of sovereignty, from a perspective of the so-called black experience, the so-called white experience, etc. Let's have a little bit of conversation. We lost some of us during me walking away for a second. That's fine. Right. And by the way, if y'all don't mind sharing, since we came over here, I'm not sure how many persons realize when we say follow us on different platforms, or be aware that we're on different platforms, hashtag FindKofi and stuff. I'm not sure how many persons actually are aware that we're saying follow us, because we're dealing with stuff like this, to where when we get too truthful about certain aspects, in order for us to continue, we have to be able to go onto other platforms and to continue to talk about truth. It is what it is. It's part of what comes with the territory. So for those of you, if you don't mind, just kind of letting others know, right, that since we got cut off, that will be over here, not only for today, but for a little bit. I greatly love you, appreciate it. I'll try to see if I can share that with everybody later. But yeah, when we're talking about racism, white supremacy, we have to get to a place of realizing and recognizing that you're dealing with a lot of stuff because it's convenient. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about sovereignty too, as well as this. Sovereignty as well. When we deal with sovereignty, or you're dealing with law, persons such as, and this is an actually well-known racist as well, so persons like the first Roosevelt president, Teddy Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, he made it a point to say that one of the reasons why the government is as involved in your life as it is, in other words, a lot of stuff that you do is in the public and not the private, is because, real talk, it's actually dangerous to let many persons be private sovereigns, non-U.S. citizens or non-citizen nationals. How you doing, Sister Taya? He said it's very dangerous to allow for that, because many persons do not take care of, and they're not accountable for what they should be accountable for. They're not accountable to who they should be accountable to. They're not being obedient to what certain laws and principles that should be put in place. So he made it sure to say straight up, like, yeah, we shouldn't be in your life the way we are. And we shouldn't be telling you what to do all the time. But we know that many of you can't be trusted. So therefore, since we can't trust a lot of you to do what you're called to do, what you're created to do, and that would be a hindrance to others, he says what we'll do is we'll go and we'll do a lot of stuff publicly, and we'll control. Those who actually want to do what they're supposed to do will actually do that, and will find the lawful ways to do so. And a lot of persons, so if we start even with the system of racism, white supremacy, that system is something that you could free yourself of. Well, let's say you would deal with it a lot less than what you deal with it now, but many persons are not willing to do lawfully what it takes. How you doing, Sister? Listen, right? And so many persons will not do what it takes to be rid of a wicked system, because the wicked system feeds you. It's right. Can we be honest? It is harder to feed yourself, but it's worth it. And by the way, please check out Sister Taya's. I'm sitting up here showing cookies and stuff, and now I'm about to go to the opposite side. Check out Sister Taya, who's on his Bright Light, right? Bright Light. Check out Sister Taya's information on things that she's trying to make sure she gets out to the community as well, to help us to be healthy and whole as well. So when you get a chance, check out her stuff on TikTok, Bright Light. And I've tried to share it in a few different places as well. I've tried to repost some of the stuff. And you also don't forget, you can repost as well. So that's something that helps us out too. Even if you don't do everything, repost. But my pleasure, Bavakasha. So, but Roosevelt told you a truth, and he's somebody who can't stand, so-called non-white persons. He says straight up, the reason why the laws and stuff are set up is because many persons are not if you look at the way stuff is, the reason why the laws are the way that they are in the first place is due to what? It's due to the fact that we know that many of you will not follow the law anyway. And so if you're not going to follow the law and do what the law says, then by all means, we're just going to make sure that we have stuff to protect us from you. And by the way, that's actually something a sovereign should agree with. If somebody's going to be unlawful, if they're going to be somebody who hurts others, if they're going to be somebody who doesn't follow the speed limit, if they're going to be somebody who's constantly, consistently hurting persons thinking nothing can happen to them, then yeah, the law needs to deal with you. You need to be separated from law-abiding sovereigns and law-abiding citizens. That's not a bad position to take. That's right. Like we were talking about earlier, in our position in the series, a lot of our position is snitches get stitches, but like a snitch, right, is somebody who is, first of all, a civilian, if you will, but a snitch is somebody who a snitch is not somebody who is like, here's what snitching is. Both of y'all went in to do the crime together. Y'all said y'all gonna do the crime together. It is what it is. And now all of a sudden you'll get caught. And because you're gonna be afraid, because you knew if you got caught that there was a penalty, you're gonna go ahead and snitch on the person that you were in agreement with and covenant with. Right? That's snitching. Okay? Snitching is not, though, like, I ain't know you was gonna pick up that knife and wield it in a manner against somebody and end up somebody where somebody's unalive because of you wielding that knife in that manner. I didn't know you were going to do that. And so now I'm showing up at the police station, you telling me not to tell. No, we had no agreement. Like, cats don't realize that. You know, like street cats, if something happens to you in the street, the reason why, if let's say Pastor Kofi's, for the streets or whatever, in the streets, and all of a sudden me being in the streets, I do what hood N-words do, and some hood N-words roll up, and they do a drive-by, and I get tagged a couple times. If I get tagged a couple times, but I'm in the streets, I know that I can tag you or you can tag me. So if you tag me first, we have an agreement. Even if we against each other, we got an agreement to where, like, yeah, this is part of what we do. So it is what it is. You tag me, I'm not going to go in and be like, yo, so-and-so got me. No. This is why persons are looking at Drake crazy when he's suing, and not just the first, or well, he hasn't sued. But the stuff he's doing to see if he can sue, to try and gather information. The first one, even though cats had a lot of disrespect when they were like, okay, he's trying to say that they did the bot numbers and lifting up the stuff. A lot of persons still were like, well, this is kind of wild because you in a rap battle. We know what we about to do, but it is what it is. They're like, okay, well, maybe we can excuse that. Even if we don't like what you did, we can't look at you the same, but whatever, right? But then when he did the second one to see if he could actually sue, or to see if he can get more information and possibly pursue suing, allegedly, that's his mindset. Then when he did that one, what was going on with that one was that Cass was like, oh, hold up. You got in a rap battle and now you're saying it's defamation of character. You straight up lied. And everything that Kendrick has said, the only one that persons can say that maybe he lied on is that maybe Drake's not quite a PD aisle because we don't have the proof that he's been laying down with them, but we definitely know he's been grooming them. So maybe that's wrong, and maybe he doesn't have a daughter, even though if you do the research, you'll discover that Drake actually has several women who says he has children, and Kendrick also said that too. But also there's one specific daughter that is about 11 years old at the time when Kendrick made that song, right, Meet the Grams, and you do some research and you'll discover that Drake actually was going to pay the child support, and it was the record company, because they had to protect his image. Remember, at the time, he's sensitive Drake, and he loves black women, and he can relate, and he's empathetic, and, you know, he's willing to be soft and all that. So they were like, no, you can't, right? You can't deal with that. And so his record company came and they squashed it and said, no, that's not his baby. And then all of a sudden his tenor changed. But he still had apparently given her money, the mother money, right? So he has more than likely a daughter, but the record company squashed it. So yeah, so it's a dirty little secret that Drake probably has a lot of children, just like a lot of persons in the industry do. That's not that hard to believe, right? But even with that, right, when he said defamation of character, even if you want to say Kendrick wasn't quite telling the truth, or he didn't give us all the stuff, or, you know, we don't know 100% for sure, Drake, you lied about everything too. So y'all came into this rap battle, and it's known, apparently, let's say both of y'all lying, you both came into agreement, whoever tells the biggest lie, that's part of the game, whoever tells the biggest lie wins. Now you got out lied, and you trying to sue for defamation. That's snitching. You see what I'm saying? That's snitching. And then come to find out, allegedly, there's a possibility that Drake might have even been responsible for getting some person's lives out of here. Now that's right, but then you're gonna come at him for this. See, that's snitching. That's when we got a problem where it's like, all right, so if you, and I'm not a street person, but I'm just saying those who are into hip hop or whatever, that's when you be like, yo, this dude bugging. That's snitching. Right? So we have a problem within ourselves, but we think that if we tell the truth, or if we say, hey, like so and so, no, snitching is we got a covenant. This is why those of us who are carry this code and those of us who are in covenant, right? We ain't snitching on one another, right? Now we shouldn't be doing anything unlawful anyways. But if we come into covenant, right? This is why the word of Yah is, you have to realize, even Yahashavai, in a sense, I hope you get the context. In a sense, what Yahashavai does when he says to his disciples in Matthew 13, verse 9, he says, we saw to everybody, he says, let those who have an ear hear. Then in verse 10, his disciples will come to him in private and say, why you always speak to them in parables? In verse 11, he says, because it's not for them to know the code. It's not for them to know, right, the mysteries, the things that want to be revealed for those that are in the kingdom. It's for you to know. Why? Because you're in the kingdom. And then he tells them what the parable of the sower means. Not everybody, but the disciples. Because giving information out and expecting everybody else to be on it is what? In a sense, it's snitching. In a sense, we have a covenant. And we acting like we're going to give them the game. And this is what a lot of us do. Is we give them the game, and we give them the game, we act like it's okay. Obviously, Stan, I don't care about what you have to say. Do better, right? I'll say hello to you, but the other stuff, you got to be better, right? I don't understand. You see what my hair looks like, and that was the only thing that you had was like, I'm going to get him with this. I'm praying not just for you. I'm praying that you step your game up. That's not even trolling. That's just weird. But anyways, so you see what I'm saying? But the snitching, the snitching piece, in a sense, we're trying to give stuff to others that aren't even in covenant with the Most High and aren't even in covenant with us. Right? Like we're legit trying to give game to others who aren't even in the game. You said what's weird is that Drake said he fed the lies to someone Kendrick knew on purpose. Yeah, especially lies about him not just having a daughter, right? But then you also got to say, because remember he even tried to address it. I knew he was going to go with that PD stuff. And it's like you knew it and you didn't address it, and then right, but you put rumors out about you have. Why would you put rumors out about you having a daughter, knowing that you just lost the last battle about you having a son? So he got outlied, and they had a covenant. Right? That's what snitching is. But in a sense, we kind of snitch, where we keep trying to give other folk game, and we keep trying to give them stuff that's supposed to be for us to grow and to do what Yah says. And we get mad that the person that we snitching to and telling how this works, they start to use it against you, but it was never for them. Because they're in the kingdom. Oh, I'm sorry, you're in the kingdom. They're not. Excuse me. You're in the kingdom. They're not. Why are you giving them all this information? And expecting that they, right? Drake snitching all the time. Drake, how can we do this? Okay, Daddy Looser. Okay, this is how we can do this. Okay, this is how we can go ahead and attack someone. Like, okay, cool. Can you use your money? Blah blah. Right? You gave them the game. Then they use it against you, Drake. And ultimately, that's what happened. Chattel slavery. Look at what happens. Native Americans. You gave them the game. They use against you. Aboriginals of Australia. You gave them the game. They use it against you. I know you don't want to talk about this in Europe. When they keep talking about how Europeans have to civilize you, no. Rome fell. Went into the Dark Ages. Everything that was under Rome went into the Dark Ages. Who civilized? So the so-called civilized persons. You. But the system of racism, white supremacy tells you that you can't be anything without them. No. Right? They fell into chaos again. It's the Moors who come through. Then the Moors get conquered. It's the Negroes who came through. They don't want to talk about them. Right? It's you who wrote the word. This is why Romans chapter 10, verse 16 says, who shall believe our report? It's not for everybody to report on this. And if you're going to report it, you should report it from the culture, from the prism, from the law, from the interpretation, from the relationship that the persons who are supposed to be the keepers of it do. And if you're going to become keepers as well, then you can only keep it from the perspective of the keeper. That's why you have to be grafted in. But racism, white supremacy says, no. Snitch, give it to somebody else and let them make it appropriate. What does appropriate mean? It means that you have to take it from somebody without permission. You have to then take it, deconstruct it, then reconstruct it, try to say that it's better now because of the way you reconstructed it, and then you put it back in a systematically in a way that becomes systemic, that you might be able to gain financial compensation from something that never belonged to me in the first place. That's actually what appropriate means. Or appropriate, same word. This is why you have to learn a code that's considered to be inappropriate, where somebody will see you on TikTok and say, we're going to try to take your channel down, right? Recently on Kofi _43, there's a video that only a few of you got a chance to see before they took it down, but they took down one in particular, and they won't even allow me to try and do what legally I'm supposed to be allowed to do, which is, hey, you took this video down and you said that it violated community guidelines. You didn't even notify me, right? But it's a video having to do with taxes. And I literally was saying, I didn't even give the tax code information in that clip. What I said in the clip that they took down was basically saying, how wicked is it that a system will put together something that says that the more money you make, the less taxes you pay. That's it. I didn't even get into the rigmarole on that. And they took it down. Why? Because you're attacking racism, white supremacy. You're letting somebody see, wait a minute. And so, right? Like, if I were, you know what's interesting? If I were to give you the game and say, hey, because most persons, once again, won't obey the law, won't learn it, and won't be consistent in it, and they'll remain inconsistent. Therefore, they'll value the inconsistencies of being hand-fed more than valuing the consistency and giving more effort to make sure that you're free. But if I had just came out and said, hey, you know what? Persons that make money, they have passive income. They don't want me to explain what that means. But they're okay with me saying that because they know most of you won't study what passive income is. But if I tell you, you are part of a system that says that the more you work, the more you're taxed. You said you thought they blocked me. They did from earlier today on Kofi _43. We're over here now. We won't be able to go over there probably until December 30th. How you doing, Brandon Garner? Thanks for being part of the community. Brandon, how you doing, Lowen? How you doing? Is it Toxic Sludge, etc.? So you have a lot of persons that are upset and frustrated because I'm telling you that a system that says that anybody is better or worse based on the color of your skin is a terribly awful and wicked system. Right? And because of that, they must take it down. Right? But I didn't say anything that's wrong. See, a lot of persons, once again, you can't even take the taste of what I'm saying because you're so used to tasting a system that's racism, white supremacy, that if I say this system should be taken down, in your mind, you're saying, so you hate white people? Never said that. And even when we talk about so-called white people, the problem in the system of racism, white supremacy is the so-called white person who practices white supremacy. So even if you think of yourself as being in the place, or you know that the system says you're in the place of a so-called white person, you're not problematic, and definitely not as problematic. Even if you do certain things that you might not recognize, you're still nowhere near as problematic as the person who practices racism, white supremacy. But you can't hear that because all you hear is racism, white supremacy. You're ticked off. And you don't want, right? And when I introduce this to you, like, this is a system. Somebody put this on purpose. Like, for example, systemically, religion-wise, Thanksgiving is supposed to be religious. Thanksgiving is made up, though. Thanksgiving wasn't even something that was celebrated until Abraham Lincoln said, let's do it every year. The same Abraham Lincoln that in December of 1862 starts drafting the Emancipation Proclamation. They make it happen in 1863, I believe, or was it? It might have been 1862, right? And you think that that's when he freed the slaves, but the Emancipation Proclamation says that those that are chattel slaves are no longer slaves to the South; they're slaves to the Union. And also, the same day he signs it, he's killing off thousands. Now they only say officially hundreds, but thousands of Native Americans who are Lakota and Dakota, and what you call North Dakota and South Dakota, over something that's not even cool because they made up a false claim to allow themselves to get land. They were supposed to pay the natives for the land. They didn't want to pay. So they caught them on some kind of weird thing that they made up, caught them on a technicality, and then said that they deserved to take their lives. And somebody had to say, yo, Lincoln, you can't hang thousands of them, at least not publicly, because if you hang thousands of them on the same day you're signing the Emancipation Proclamation, a lot of persons in the Union are going to realize you're two-faced, and you don't think the South is going to use that as bad press? He said, you're right, only hang hundreds of them. Supposedly, that's how the story goes. Right? But in your mind, you don't even think of that being, of the Emancipation Proclamation as being problematic. Because you think that's when he freed the slaves. No, that was when, on paper, right? Because remember, we've even talked about this with you being a slave to sin. If you're a slave to sin, you were bought with a price. That means that you went from being a slave to sin to being a slave in the kingdom. But in the kingdom, we try to eradicate slavery. So you were purchased as a slave. When you were purchased, you weren't purchased into freedom, you were purchased into slavery. But then after that, what is the master, the teacher, supposed to do? The master says, okay, now that you've been purchased as a slave, I want you to become an indentured servant. Serve. Be a disciple. And then after that, we want you to go ahead and become somebody who's adopted into the family, into a position. And then we want to make sure that you're free, right? But we're not going to take you with a slave mind and just say be free, because somebody with a slave mind who's made free does what slaves do. So you show them how to be free, and then you give them their freedom. And then when you give them their freedom, you give them an opportunity. If you want to stay in the family, stay in the family. And as you stay in the family and you become adopted in, now you can even be adopted as a child. And once you're adopted as a child, now you become a fellow heir of whatever the son is an heir of. Well, same kind of mindset, law. You were a slave to the South. If you're been purchased, right, then you weren't free, you were still a slave. And you were allowed, if you were allowed and you're being freed as a slave, you could fight for the South. You didn't just become free. But we don't think about those things, because then we'd have to admit that even in what we have so-called romanticized about the Civil War, you weren't freed then. We would have to admit those things. How you doing, JoJo? How you doing, 15%? So you have to recognize it. I'm sorry, I just sent somebody an invitation to come on. That was an accident. Please don't worry about coming on. Sorry about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't want to admit to that. We don't want to admit to that. We do not want to admit that there's certain things that we're still holding on to. Right? We don't want to admit to. Okay, we'll leave it there for now. But yeah, so let's go back to the book. Right? We're dealing with the United Independent Compensatory Code/System/Concept by Neely Fuller Jr. Right? And even with all the twists and turns today, we still getting some word out. Praise y'all. So once again, we read, it says, in a socio-material system dominated by racism, white supremacy, many non-white people like to pretend that they are in charge or that it is they who make the final decisions of major matters. Since it is true that they do not, it is incorrect for them to pretend that they do. Do not attempt to answer a question. Now here's the next one. Do not attempt to answer a question until you are prepared. And by the way, this all has to do under the umbrella of politics. Okay? So this is code for us. Remember, we're in the kingdom politics, even if you're not in the politics as far as the left versus right. Don't forget that you are a politician dealing with the people, politician dealing with polls, politicians dealing with opinions, right? Things of that nature. Politicians using those things to be able to get what they want. We're into kingdom politics. So just because I'm not a Republican, just because I'm not a Democrat, just because I'm not a Marxist or a communist or a Green Party affiliated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, whichever parties you want to look at in your left or right places in whatever countries you are, in parliament, even or parliaments across the place, congresses across the system of racism, white supremacy, whatever the case is. I'm not into any of that. I'm a kingdom-minded person, but I'm still into politics because I use kingdom politics. Politics that I have come through the prism of the kingdom. So when persons say I'm not into politics, you're not into people. You're not into opinions. You're not into polls. Everybody's into politics. Just what is the prism of your politics is what we're talking about. All right, so here's the next one. Do not attempt to answer a question until you are prepared to answer it in such manner that the answer helps to not merely relate facts, but also to reveal truth. Oh, did you catch that? Here's something else in the code. Do not even attempt to answer a question. You hear me, beloved? It is not your responsibility, nor should you even think of answering a question. How you doing, Sister Iska? Do not answer any question until not only can you give facts to back it up, but also reveal truth. The way we say that here at SOC, we say we don't just give context, and we do not just give facts. We give what is called contextual facts. We need both. If we do that, then what we say is not just going to be something that tells you a fact, because facts can be used for falsehood, for overall falsehoods or overall truth. But we want something to be revealed that helps you to see the mysteries be revealed. Right? We want contextual facts. Don't just tell me that Abraham Lincoln signed a declaration, right? Or, I'm sorry, declaration, blah. Like we just said, Abraham Lincoln deals with the Emancipation Proclamation. Tell me that you know that while he was signing it, he was also getting ready to hang a bunch of natives who they considered to be Negroes. When you can tell me that, then you can reveal the truth. And you can tell me, obviously, what the interpretation I should get out of that. When you see something that says, we the people, don't tell me that we the people is something you use until you can show me that we the people means people in law means nation. So if you're not considered to be part of the nation and it says we the people, that means that the Constitution never addressed you and doesn't have anything to do with you, especially if you're still not sovereign. Because if you're not sovereign and a non-citizen national, but you're still a citizen of a system that said that you were a savage or you were a bond, right? That means that you're not free. And you're talking about yourself as if this system is talking about you when you are not part of the nation. You are to be a servant at best and really a slave to it, which is why you're still in debt. Be in one body. Amen. How you doing, Sister Nadine? Right? Be in one body. You see? So you have to be careful. A lot of persons will give you a fact, but they're not prepared to give you context. So we should never, right? We should never be in a position to where we're listing facts with no context and context with no facts. Does that make sense? All right. Same back at you. All right. So now, what has become problematic is many of us, this is why YouTube and other places can be very dangerous, because we don't check context and we don't check facts, and many times we don't even know where to go. Right? Like I'm watching a lot of stuff about Bantu stuff, and I'm cool with, if you know that that's part of culture, and you know that they're some of the people, not all of them, but some of the people. But then we start having persons that are now trying to say, oh yeah, Israel, remember, Israel's been moved so many times. Israel's not where the Bible said it was anymore. Israel's in the United States. Nope, it's not in the United States. It's actually in this part of India. Wait a minute. No, it's not here. It's in South America. Wait a minute. Now it's in Bantu. No, like the Bantu people are persons who were scattered. And we keep forgetting that the scattering didn't just happen after Yahashavai lost his life, and after really then 70 AC. The scattering was something that was happening over generations and generations and generations. But somebody without context hears a fact. Remember, fact does not mean truth. Lawfully speaking. When you go before a judge, you are supposed to bring what's called facts, and so is the opposition. And it is up for the judge to use law and their training to determine whether the context that goes with the facts lead to the truth. Never forget that. Right? Many of us haven't been trained in law, so we don't recognize this. But a fact does not mean that it's true. It just means that you are submitting something to be looked at on the docket, so to speak. But it doesn't mean it's true. You catch that contextually, beloved? Banat Yahashavai. You catch that? A fact does not mean it's true. It just means it's presented. That's why we don't just do facts, because facts in and of themselves doesn't mean true. A lot of things are listed as fact, right? If your child goes to school, here's a fact. George Washington is the first president of the United States of America. Is that true? But it's a fact. So your child, when they go to school, they don't have to learn the truth. They have to learn the facts. Oh, my greatness. Did you catch that? Even the word fact is the beginning of the word faction. Factions, right? So facts bring a faction together, but there can be factions where you have a fact, but your context is different than the person that can take that same fact and have a different context. Therefore, the different context put on the same fact can cause different factions to be created. This is how a whole bunch of persons all over the world believe in the Bible, but have these things called factions, or you might call them religions, or you might call them sects, S-E-C-T-S, sections, based off of factions, based off of a fact with different context given. So somebody with the fact that we should be baptized in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit says, I will become a faction called Baptist. Somebody else sees a fact, they say, I like the fact that in this time we use this methodology to go ahead. We study through this method. So since we study through this method, we shall become the faction of Methodists. Right? You see what I'm saying? Context. And so context has to be correct, and context has to be dealt with, or else you continue to have a lot of factions. The factions are fighting over facts, but not just the fact. They're fighting over what? They're fighting over the context. And we don't have a lot of persons that are going to keep it real when it comes to context. Said Pharisees and Sadducees are sects, right? Sections of Israel, but largely not, of Israel, right? And matter of fact, if you even look at the Pharisees and the Sadducees don't even believe in the afterlife. Like when you do some research on Pharisees, you'll discover Pharisees don't even believe in the afterlife. They believe that heaven's right now. So if you're listening to somebody calling themselves Pharisee so-and-so, you should have a contextual. They'll give you some facts, but you have to figure out the context or the prism they're coming through. They're not even coming through the same prism that you're coming through. Because what they're getting their information from is through a prism, right? It's like the microscope we talked about before. When we hear this term, when we hear in the scripture, it says, oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. To magnify doesn't mean to make bigger. Now somebody says, what you talking about? Kofi, you off now. Right? You off now. What you mean? What you mean? No. Magnify doesn't make bigger. Magnify means you have to look through a lens. Did you know you can look through a magnifying glass? Or you can look through a microscope? And the microscope can show you whatever you're looking at actual size. It's not guaranteed that when you look through a microscope, you're going to see it 2 times, 4 times, 8 times, 100 times, whatever. You can look through a microscope and see something at its actual size. It depends on the lens. That's why you flip on the bottom, or you have a little button, or whatever you use. I don't know what kind of microscope you use, but you have when you have not only the disc and the slip and everything that you have to make sure you can look through, but then you're also given the ability to flip the view, to flip the scope. And every time you go through the scope, there's a different prism. So when it says, oh, magnify Yahavah with me and let us exalt his authority together, what it's saying is you got to look through the same prism. And if you're looking through the same prism I'm looking through, then when we magnify it, then it gets bigger, but only through the prism. The magnification doesn't happen if you're not looking through the correct prism. So if I magnify at 2 times, but you magnify it 16 times, then you'll see some stuff that I'm not seeing. But if we're going to magnify him together and exalt his name, his authority together, we got to look through the same prism. That's what magnifying is. We only focus on get bigger, but magnify, however much it gets magnified, it depends on the prism, the context that you look through, the reality, right? So you have to be careful. A lot of persons are trying to say we magnify Yah and we look at this and we're looking at things the same, but you might be sectionalizing or becoming a whole different sect or section of thought process. See, that's why even in your own families, you must recognize Yah's doing some separating, because as much as you want to get some stuff done, some of your family is not trying to magnify the same way you are, because they have to look through the same prism. So some of them have to be cut off because the prism that they're looking through is not causing magnifying. Not at least the way that Yah wants, because he wants exponential magnifying. I know it's tough. It's real though, right? The prism that you're looking through is not the same that everybody else is looking through. So you're like, why didn't somebody get it? Why is somebody not getting that? Right? But they're not magnifying the same that you do. They're not even trying to. It's not even in their prism. It's not even in their scope. What you're talking about is something that doesn't even make sense to them. So they're quick to dismiss you. They're quick to say you're in a cult. They're quick to say, a lot of times the best way to deal with something you can't comprehend, especially by the world standards, a lot of times to deal with what you can't comprehend is to call it crazy. A lot of times the best way to deal with something is to call it racist. You don't like racism, white supremacy, you're racist. You're the problem. Because I don't have to do anything about it. It's easy. It's easy to dismiss it. You say that you're supposed to love Yah. Oh, you crazy. You say you read the Bible, but I'm not supposed to read it in English. I'm supposed to read it when it was originally written. Something wrong with you. The Bible has scriptures that talk about not idolizing trees. Whatever, right? It's easy. It's easy. Let those with ears hear, right? And magnify, yeah. So you got to look through the same prism. You got to recognize that's something that happens. And it hurts because mother will be against daughter, and father will be against son, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, and father-in-law against son-in-law. 2 will be in one house and be against 3. 3 will be in one house and be against 2. And we think that he came that there might be peace, but there'll be division, not amongst us, but against those who want to be in a faction of truth and a faction of lies. There's a decision. Everybody got free will. And it's difficult because in your mind, this person loved me. This person fed me from their own bosom. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this person. I am literally a manifestation of 2 persons coming together in love. How dare I even think that this person might be in a different faction, but they might. Now, praise Yah that there's still time. And praise Yah that even before the second death, there's still time. Right? Praise Yah that we're not the judge. Right? That being said, though, we can't get into factions we don't belong in. For what fellowship, what faction should exist where light and dark come together? If I come in a room that's dark and I have a big enough light, there's no darkness that still exists. And if there's any darkness, it only exists in the shadows. And the only reason that you can even determine the shadow is because the light is shining on something. So what's behind you is no longer what's shining upon you. What's shining upon you is showing you that what's in front of you is light and what's behind you is the past. That's why some will live in your shadow. Oh, come on, Holy Ghost. I thought I was supposed to be talking about racism, white supremacy. We sitting up here talking. But I'm just saying, right? What's in your shadow? And we got to put some of this racism, white supremacy behind. Come on, Holy Ghost. I see where you're going. We got to put it behind. And we got to say, okay. And some person, it's difficult. I haven't admitted, well, I won't say. There's a family member whom I love and whom I thought everything was all right with. And all of a sudden, a few months ago, ain't heard from him. Haven't heard from them at all, and I'm waiting on them. Like when they gonna call, when they gonna do this, when they gonna do, but nothing. And I'm pretty sure I know what it's about because I told the truth. That being said, though, that might be a shadow. I pray that it only be my shadow for a season, because as I move in the light, the shadow can move in different ways. So prayerfully, and if I get right underneath, understand the light, the shadow sometimes just goes away. At least it looks like it's gone away completely from me, even though it's just under my feet. So prayerfully, that situation will be under my feet completely. But yeah, it's difficult to look back and see a shadow. It's difficult sometimes. The shadow can remind you of certain things. You walking towards the light and doing what you need to do, you look back at the shadow and you go, oh man, I'm a little rotund. Well, that's what you look like in the shadow, but where you're heading towards the light, that doesn't have to be who you are anymore. Alrighty. Praise God. What'd you say, Minister Tamara, Ephesians 4:22? We just went over that not too long ago, right? Before we got into Ephesians 5. Well, I guess it's been a little while now, probably almost a week ago. Right? Ephesians 4:22. That you put off concerning the former conversation. Come on. I see you, Minister. That you put off concerning the former conversation, the old man, right? Which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust. And it has a semicolon right after that, which really is the same thing as Romans chapter 12, right? Verse 2. But there's a semicolon right after that. Ephesians 4:23 says, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. So to be renewed, not just to be new, but to be renewed. I'm going back to what I was when I was new. I'm being salvaged. Work out your own salvation, right? So if I'm going back to what I used to be, what I should have been before sin entered, what I was when Yah originally created me in spirit and eternity, when he first made me, before I had to enter in through time as my first prism, because I had to magnify him through the prism of time, because that's all I knew, because all I knew was something that was leading to death since my father Adam had sinned. Right, but now that I'm going to a place where I'm getting back to my original pneuma, right, because that's what they're using here for spirit, which is the thought, the stoic thought that marries the spirit, the body, and soul together. So now I'm getting back to who I originally was supposed to be before sin entered. I have to, at the semicolon, means that what's on one side is on the other side as well. So by doing one, by renewing my mind, that means I'm putting off the things that concern former conversation of who I was, right? Because it's corrupt. According, because it's attached, it's a cord. It's according, it's measured by, it's ruled by, right? It's judged by, it's connected to deceitful lust. But if I get away from the things that I lusted after and coveted after and acted like I didn't want, you got to be honest with yourself. No, man, I've never wanted blah, blah. I've never looked for this. Come on. In your flesh. We're not talking about you now. But what you used to be, yeah. You said how you renew your mind, you go back to the original intent for your mind. How were you originally supposed to think? What was your culture before somebody told you your culture was? Even and I'm not mad at my FBA brethren, but these foundational Black Americans, what does that mean? What were you before you were a Black American? We built it, so we're foundational. You were a slave when you built it. When you say we built this, are you talking about Native American? When you say we built this, are you talking about Omakshi? When you say we built this, are you talking about Khalifa? When you say you built this, are you talking about so-called Aztec? When you say we built this, are you talking about Inca? When you say we built this, you talking Wampanoag? When you say we built this, you talking about Gullah Geechee? When you say we built this, you talking about Lakota? You talking about Dakota? You talking about Sioux? You talking about Foot? You talking about Blackfoot? You talking about Creek? You talking about Seminole? You talking about Cherokee? You talking about Anakitawaya? You talking about Choctaw? I mean, who, when you say we built this, see, you're not even thinking about who you are. You're talking about, as a slave, I was forced to build it. Now, as a slave, I built it with some power that I didn't even recognize I had, because Master still had to use me, right, and use what was in me and tell me that I had nothing in me while I was building. I get that, but what I'm saying is, if all you got to go off of is what you did through chattel slavery, then you still ain't you, because all you doing is coming from a slave mind. That's why your college degree means so much from you, because as long as master says that you smart, you smart. And master will hire me now. He'll keep me in debt, so I'm still a slave to him, but he'll hire me now. I'm sorry, I had to do that because I gotta let you know you dancing. I'm just saying, right? But renewing your mind, going back to what was original, the original intent. Coming back into remembrance. So yeah, renewing the mind. You were a member of something. You were dismembered. It was cut off from you. It's cut off. Now that it's cut off, it's hard for you to go through the process of not only just reattaching it, but now you're going through the process of making sure it's part of a body. What is the culture? What does it mean? Even if you're black, fine. What does that mean to be black? Black does mean something. What context we're talking about? Contextual facts. Don't just give me a fact, I'm black. Don't just give me a fact, I built. Give me the context. Because if I built for the oppressor, then I know what it is to build for the oppressor. But if I've never built for myself, I still don't know what that is. Come on. That's a word right there. How you doing, Divine Queen Mother? I see you. Right, that's a word for somebody right there. You keep talking about I built, I got there, blah, blah. Who did you build for? My business. Who is your business for? I say this to the preachers. When they say, oh, I'm called to preach, I be so excited. And I be like, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. But then I say, okay, real quick though, who are you called to preach to? I'm excited for you. You called to preach. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Let's go ahead. Let's celebrate. All right. But before we get too deep in the conversation, too deep in your celebration, who are you preaching to? Because you're not preaching to everybody. And you preach in a manner that not everybody gonna catch, because I preach in a manner that's not for everybody. I might be too heavy-handed. I might be too much study. I might not give enough of the stuff. There's time to time. Some of y'all have been around where sometimes I hoop and I holler. It's very rare, but this came out before. But it's not gonna be my thing, right? I'm gonna be Holy Spirit led. The Holy Spirit doesn't usually lead me to go down that path. So if you're looking for that, you might need that from somebody, right? But who are you called to preach to? What is the context? What's the facts? Is it going to take you out of your comfort zone? Are you ready to leave it? Are you ready to be obedient outside of that comfort zone, no matter what? This is a contextual fact. But once again, we don't think like that. We're not thinking on that on that level, right? Our mindset is, as long as Master says we did well. All right. So back to page 150. Do not attempt to answer a question until you are prepared to answer it in such manner that the answer helps to not merely relate facts, but also to reveal truth. Some selected facts presented in a special manner do not always reveal truth. Facts should always be presented in such manner that truth is revealed. Facts can and are oftentimes presented in such manner as to promote falsehood. If truth is not revealed through the correct presentation of facts, it is impossible to promote justice and or correctness. And once again, same book. We've been. I apologize, just looking. So long time no talk to. So we've been doing this for a while now. The book is the United Independent Compensatory Code / System / Concept, written by the author Neely Neely Fuller Fuller Jr. All right. I believe he might even had a version of this. I thought this book was written in the late 80s, early 90s, and there's different editions. Apparently, according to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, if you know who she is, she's passed away. She's an ancestor now, but she actually was talking about, he was writing stuff out like this, and persons didn't believe when he was saying, like, apparently, according to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, Neely Fuller Jr. was in the 60s speaking and trying to tell persons that, you're going to see brothers in dresses and all this other stuff. And we were looking at, as a community, we're looking at him like he had lost his mind. And now, I mean, the man looked like a prophet. But he was talking about we got to stay on code back then, or, masculinity was going to disappear and a lot of different things were going to happen. So he's been around since the 60s, at least, as far as being heard or talked, even if it was in smaller circles. But yeah, he was in the same circles as like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and persons like that, if you know who that is. Still does a podcast, yeah, and he has a lot of different stuff that you can learn from on YouTube and stuff as well if you missed the podcast. So from he actually has a lot of, there's several persons who actually animate a lot of stuff that he talks about. I would make sure your children probably don't watch it. It's not that type of animation, but it gets the point across. Matter of fact, for the 12 Myths of Christmas thing, because technically we're supposed to be done with them tomorrow, but I did keep saying we were going to do it through the 24th. So we might on the 24th. We won't invite the children, unless you're ready for your children to see some wild stuff. Like, you know, it's going to show, you know, how persons get wild. It's going to show, like, think Boondocks, but think Boondocks kind of on steroids. So we might do some of that to kind of show some of it. It's not, you know, your child needs to be mature. And I'm not just saying, yeah, my child mature again. No. Your child, your baby, even your young adult baby, maybe even, need to be mature enough to handle some stuff. It's going to be a little wild, right? But I promise you it gets the point across. Is there a way to replay the 12 myths? Well, we have the 12 myths, so we've been posting them on different places in social media, maybe not on TikTok, but if you go to our Facebook pages, if you go to YouTube page, if you go to a YouTube channel, hashtag FindKofi, and just look through the playlist, it's on, there's one playlist literally called the 12 Myths of Christmas. So if you go on there and look through that playlist, you'll be able to find the 12 myths. We're on myth 11. So we're not technically only giving 12 myths, or every day is one myth. We're just doing a play on words. So it's 12 days of Christmas, which we know is pagan stuff and heathen stuff. But we're trying to, instead of saying 12 days of Christmas, we call it the 12 myths. And we don't do this every year. I don't think it's going to be a yearly thing. This is something that we're doing mostly to make sure that we know during this time and during this season, a lot of persons feel very lonely. And since they feel very lonely and alone, there's a lot of unfortunate things that happen due to depression. So this is a way of us just kind of we've done different things. We've even played some games a couple times and stuff like that. But we've done different things and shown different videos, had different conversations. And we put all the information too on Patreon. So we have it on Patreon. If you're a free member, you can literally just go on Patreon and look it up. I post the stuff on there. So you don't even have to pay, you know, or be somebody who gives a donation through Patreon. You can literally just go on Patreon, become a free member, and it's right there for you. So there are different ways that you can look at it, but we've been posting it in different places. Our WhatsApp groups, you've been getting it. I try my best. I can't always. I tell you guys, when it comes to the text, I can't text all the time because that's something that if I have extra time, I try to do. That's why a lot of times you guys see me doing it even during the sessions as we're getting on, right? But anyways, so what are we doing? Where are we at? Oh yeah. So back to page 150. The book, once again, is called The United Independent Compensatory Code /System/Concept by Neely Fuller Jr. And if you're going to read it, like we're only doing bits and pieces of it. It's a workbook. It's designed for you to read through a whole lot. And if you do it correctly, it might take you years to actually read correctly, but it's worth it. It'll totally change the way that you look at stuff. Amen. All right. So let's go to the next one. We're at the bottom of page 150. It says, answer all questions presented to you, and at all times answer only in a manner that will neither directly or indirectly help to establish, maintain, expand. Oh, I'm sorry, it probably should be either. Anyway, let me read through it. Help to establish, maintain, expand, and or. Sorry, I got an advertisement. Sorry. Establish, maintain, and or refine. Okay, so yeah, that does none of. Refine racism, white supremacy. Sorry. So answer all questions presented to you, and at all times answer only in a manner that will neither directly or indirectly help to establish, maintain, expand, and or refine racism, white supremacy. All right. If you are asked a question and you do not know the answer to that question, always say you do not know. You don't know. Every remark that is made by any person at any time about any subject should be made in a manner that helps to eliminate falsehood, as well as helps to produce justice and correctness. Remember, what is justice? In this series that we're reading, what do we say when we mean something is dealing with justice? Justice, as far as what we're talking about, is defined as anything that's causing us to dismantle racism, white supremacy, or to separate from it. All right? So if we're not if you're doing so, you should not answer any question, especially if you do not know the answer. It's okay to say I don't know, because you could in fact be doing something that's causing racism, white supremacy to go forward. So if there's a question, including he's not saying this, I would add this little tidbit on, including if you are having questions within yourself. And sometimes if you're not careful, what you do is you try to just come up with stuff. You come up with theories of your own all the time. So, because what is a theory? A theory takes us from A to C. You might know what A is, you might know what C is, but you don't know what B is in between. So how do I get to B to be able to live a life and not have to worry about why am I doing blah, blah. A lot of times you come up with a theory within thyself. So know thyself and also address thyself and know that sometimes you might be coming up with something. It's like, for example, A, Pastor Kofi is supposed to do something for my household. C, Pastor Kofi didn't do what he said he was going to do. So B sometimes becomes, I notice it happens sometimes. B, I have persons that make up this whole thing like, I don't like you, blah, blah, this and that, whatever. It's like, no, that's not at all. B could be, I forgot. B could be, I got too much on my plate and I shouldn't have that much and therefore it's causing me to mess up. B could be, I realized that I was wrong and I'm worried about doing something for you that's wrong and I don't know how to admit it because I'm on my own thing of like insecurity and stuff, whatever. There could be a lot of different reasons for B, but a lot of times we come up with a theory for it. So it's very important because we could be promoting a separatist mindset one from another, right? And we could be holding up racism, white supremacy, right? Let's keep on going. Do not allow yourself to be rushed into answering a question when you believe that you are not prepared to answer in a manner that will reveal truth, promote justice, and promote correctness. A so-called answer to a question that does not reveal truth, promote justice, and or promote correctness is not an answer. It is a non-answer. All right. A non-answer is a word or a combination of words used to respond to a question in such manner that facts may be presented, but truth is not revealed, nor justice or correctness promoted. Right? We've been talking about that a lot already, right? So you probably got the gist of that. But there are a lot of persons who will give you something and they just give, it's like if you ask somebody, how you doing? And they just start spitting out a bunch of stuff and you listen to them long enough and you're like, this person must be doing real bad because they ain't said nothing about how they doing. They just talking. You know what I'm saying? You ever had that? I'm not saying sometimes we shouldn't listen to person's talk. I'm just saying, you ever had somebody or you ask them something, you say, you ever, like a child breaks the lamp and they start sitting, you say, did you break this lamp? And what they start doing, okay, so I got out of bed, right? And I didn't want to do what you didn't tell me to do because I always listen to what you tell me to do. And so I thought about going in the kitchen, but you weren't up. Yeah, I know I'm not supposed to go in the kitchen. So I didn't go in the kitchen, right? And I saw the lamp, but I was very careful. I didn't want, so I went to the other side of the room, and that's what it is. And you're like, yeah, you broke the lamp. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you ain't give me enough. You gave me a bunch of facts, but I need some context. Contextually, did you break that lamp? Did you break that lamp? Right? But that's a lot of cats do that. You talk to him, you ask him something. Hey, you believe in the word? Well, I'm gonna say it like a child. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to Joan. I'm not trying. But this is how we be sounding. My word, I know. I'm gonna make somebody upset with this. Look, but this is how sometimes some of us we be sounding trifling, boy. Somebody asks you a simple question about the word, right? Now I get it because I'm one that I'm not really direct all the time because I have to be very linear. So I get it. I can sound a little two-faced in what I'm saying, but I hope you get the gist of it, right? I'm not somebody who does this, but this is how we be sounding. Oh my goodness, we be really trying our best to get over on folk or to not admit that like, yo, we just not in the word, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. Somebody asks you a question and you don't come with no kind of facts and no kind of context. Some persons don't even want context. They just like, tell me the fact, but you need to know context. Because later on we're gonna argue when you don't get no context. But anyway, somebody says, "Do you believe in the word?" Brother approach you, "Hey girl, what's up? What's up? What's up, Shorty? Man, I'm really feeling how you dressing and stuff like that. I see you with your word, with your sword. I believe in the Most High too. You looking beautiful over there. I think that I can be, y'all speaking to me right now. You might be my wifey. You might be wifey material, right? And so before you get in your feelings and start putting your shoulders like this and stuff, you might want to ask him, well, what is the word of Yah? Who is Yah to you? And they start talking and they sound just like that little child. Well, first things first. I mean, God is good all the time, and all the time He is good, and His word, His word, it is powerful. His word is powerful. Amen. And He does love everybody, and y'all know that I love everybody because He loves everybody, and I love to go, where the word is preached. I'm not necessarily like religious or anything, but I am spiritual, and I'm always spiritually guided. And I know as a man, I've got to be right with God before I'm with you. And man, this Negro don't know what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like like if you would look at, we don't want to. If you would come to Yah as a little child. Right. God, he knows my heart, and He knows what I mean. He knows what I'm trying to. I'm not right all the time, but if nobody is perfect, that's not what I asked you, bruh. What does Yah mean to you? That's how you be sound. What does the word mean to you? Who is the word? Who is Yahavah? What is Badashah? Like, give me something. And bro, just I'm really trying to get it together. But I'm under construction. All men are under construction. He just be throwing out some motivational stuff. You're like, what is this? What are you talking about? Tell me, what does Yah mean to you? That's what I asked. Right? It's the same thing. We be sounding just like that. You should never, right? And even brothers, if you're not there yet, then you should never answer a question unless you've taken time out to make sure that not only can you give facts, but that you can reveal truth. Sisters, that's why sometimes you give your husband a chance. I need to know. What you mean? What you talking about? What did you mean when you said this? And he not saying anything yet? Why are you taking so long? Why are you taking so long? He taking long because what happens is, if you're not careful, he gonna yell at you and he gonna say some stuff that he don't even mean, but you want to get him in his feelings, rather than him take time to address it, breathe in, breathe out, assess the situation, and not only just give you a fact that might make you upset, but give you some context, give you something that reveals the truth, so that when you hear it, you're not just hearing a fact without any context that makes you say, well, oh, so you don't, right? It'd be like when you're not angry about dang, can you, I can't believe, person just sitting up here and they da. And your husband looks at you and he think he's waiting for you to finish. He goes, yeah, it ain't nothing to be upset about though. Who said I was upset? I'm sorry. It seemed like you might be upset. I was just saying, but if you're not, I'm in agreement to be upset about, right? Oh, well, you gonna come with me? Cause, and by the way, I'm going off a joke. This ain't a personal thing. I saw this on a skit, right? But you upset? Well, you must be upset. No, I'm not upset at all. I'm just saying, like, it seemed like you upset. I was saying nothing to be upset about. I don't like when you be cutting me off. I thought you were finished. Were you finished? No, I'm not finished. And I'm going, and that's it. Blah blah. And then she stopped. And then the man didn't say anything, and she was like, "Oh, you ain't got nothing to say?" I was like, "I'm confused." Oh, so I'm confusing, right? Now that's a skit, but I'm just saying that can be something that happens, right? Where you get stuff where it's like, give me a chance to give you the contextual fact, and take what I'm saying as contextual fact, and let it be something that reveals the truth. Now I'm not saying all men do this, but I'm saying kingdom men, that's our mindset. Right? I'm not saying all men do this, but I'm saying kingdom men, that is our mindset. It should be our mindset. Right? That should be our mindset. So we should have a thought process to where we are thinking about this consistently and constantly, right? That we should be giving that. That's what happens. So when we don't give each other an opportunity, or we don't take the opportunity to ensure that what we're saying, I'd rather get on your nerves because I'm taking a little too long to get the point across than to just speak and it be something where what I'm saying doesn't get anything across other than more chaos and confusion. I'm on. And thank you everybody for joining us on all the platforms today. Thank you if there's any donations. Thank you for sharing the live, by the way. I know TikTok, we got shut down. So thank you for those who found us on other platforms. Thanks for finding us on Clapper, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, earlier on the podcast, earlier on Kofi_43 on TikTok, whatever the case is. We appreciate love you. Thank you so much for being on with us. All right. Here's the next one, still on page 151. If you are asked a question and you are not prepared to answer the question in a manner, we just said it, to reveal truth and helps to promote justice and correctness, then it is correct to make the then it is correct to make the following statement to the person or persons asking the question. The question you ask should be answered correctly and in the correct manner. It's okay to say that. How you doing, Sister Barbara? Hey, you didn't answer that. What I just asked you was, you gave me something different, or the context that I'm looking for is something different. You gave me a fact. You gave me a bunch of facts. I'm not saying they're not facts. I need you to hone in for me. You should be allowed to say that, right? So I am not. So watch this. I am not now prepared to answer the question correctly in the correct manner. You should be allowed. We should be allowed to come to each other and say, hey, right now I'm not prepared to even answer that. Here's another one you should be allowed to say, and should say if necessary. With your cooperation, I need some time other than this time to prepare to answer. I tell you that right there, a bunch of arguments and marriages go away if somebody says, I really want to go at you right now, but I need some time to get myself together. Please, give me 2 hours, because I can't even believe you coming to me like that. But whatever. But please give me some time. Cooperate with me. Right? Because I don't even know how to answer that. And I want to make sure when I give you an answer, it has proper context. There'll be so much stuff. Some of these brothers and sisters, some of your BFFs, some of your boys, some of your girls, whatever, y'all would get along so much better if there was time taken sometimes to be like, yeah, we can't talk right now, because you about to get this work. I'm about to give you this work. I know you might not even deserve this work. I got to figure out if you deserve this work. I've had persons say that to me, and so see it. I'm thankful. They'd be like, I'd be like, you want to talk? Something wrong, blah, blah. And they just be looking at me and they say, somebody once was like, no, it's all right, Pastor. Like, let me think about it. I might need like a day or two to think about it. Everything might be all right, but I'm seeing stuff different. I've had persons mature enough to hit me with that. And I say, all right, I got you. All right, and then never even bring it up again, which means that they thought about it. It wasn't worth even speaking on. Like, we cool. That's right. I want to come prepared peace, not contention. Right. All right. Next one. Ask questions, and if you receive, so that's why we love Q&A and stuff like that. We should always have a safe place to ask questions, right? So ask questions, and if you receive no answer, seek a complete knowledge and understanding of the reason or reasons for your not receiving the correct answers. When a person talks to you about something and you are not correctly prepared to talk about it. So once again, we're talking about from the perspective, I'm not prepared. Right? You asking me something, I'm not prepared. You want something from me, I'm not prepared, right? Okay. So peep game, right? When a person talks to you about something and you are not correctly prepared to talk about the same, it is correct to make the following statement. I am not prepared to talk in a correct manner about this particular subject at this time. With your cooperation, I will talk to you at some other time after the correct preparation. Sounds like he's repeating himself, but he's really not. He's giving you slight variances. I hope you're catching them. You said if you're quiet, you're doing a favor. Yeah, it can be. All right, next one. Watch this. This is an important one. Don't let flattery and or so-called gifts blind you don't let flattery or outright gifts blind you to racism and other injustices. Oh my greatness. Don't let flattery and or so-called gifts blind you to racism or other injustices. If you're doing wrong, I should be able to tell you you're doing wrong. And if you give me a gift, prayerfully you're giving me the gift because you were going to give it to me anyways. Right? Prayerfully you're giving me the gift because that was already on schedule. I hope you're not giving me the gift because you done messed up. Right? You hear what I'm saying? Like, hey, if you was going to give me a gift, give me the gift anyways. But don't give it to me because you think I messed up. Or, hey, I mean, flowers, right? Sisters, flowers to show that you messed up. That could be a thing. But I'm just saying, right? If you give me a gift, don't give me the gift because you think that you're going to flatter your way out of it. You still need to make sure that you addressed your grievous error. Sisters, we love y'all body and everything, but don't think, okay, you're going to give the body and now you're going to give the body up. You think it's a pacifier, right? And you done pacified, boy. But just because you done pacified him for a second doesn't mean that he ain't gonna cry when he hungry again. You give a baby a pacifier is nice and everything, right? Whatever y'all call a pacifier, nook, whatever, all his names you got for it, right? At the end of the day, once the pacifier is done, they still gonna need something in their belly at some point, and they'll start crying, and the pacifier gonna go away because they need to be fed. So don't let flattery and or so-called gifts blind you to any kind of injustice, including racism, white supremacy, right? Flattery and so-called gifts and favors are some of the basic tactics and weapons used by racists or white supremacists, not all white persons who uphold racism, white supremacy, to weaken, confuse, and more easily dominate their victims, who are non-white people. Here's why you got to be careful. I've been the token. I know what it is to walk in the room and be the token. And hey, shoot, they make fun of me. They say different things about me. They do this, they do that, right? But so-and-so taking me to restaurants that I can't afford to go to. So-and-so's allowing me to go on trips that I would have never been able to go to. So-and-so, when I run away from home, nobody knows where I am or whatever, and their parents don't even care about them, let alone about me staying there, right? Go over there, we drinking and doing all this stuff, drinking, smoking, getting that loud, whatever, all this stuff, and we doing all these things. And nobody gonna stop us. So cool. The gifts. But it's bad behavior. Right? And it's setting me up for bad things. And what happens is flattery and gifts, they blind you. And so it makes it easy to dominate you. And so now, what you gonna raise your children in? You raise your children and you token, you got all these different things or whatever because somebody gave you these gifts. And now it's okay for a person to talk bad about you. Right? Forgive me. I'm gonna just be real. Can I keep it real? All right. I'm not a Republican or Democrat, so most of you are gonna take whatever side you take with this. Hey, take whatever side you want. And I'm pro love who you love. I want to make that clear for some of you who might be hearing me for the first time, but I'm gonna just speak the truth. What's her name? Kamala Harris. If you're getting certain gifts and presents and stuff from the other side, including even certain things that you get just because of who your husband is. And that's the mindset that you have. It's not that because remember, we're talking about culture. The culture that you decided is one of racism, white supremacy. You can be a black-white couple and decide to not be in racism, white supremacy. You can be a black-white couple and be in racism, white supremacy. You can be a white-white couple and be in racism, white supremacy. You can be a white-white couple and not be in it. You can be a black-black couple and be in it. You can be a black-black couple and not be in it, okay? But your situation you got, everything was about putting white people first. Only when you looked like you were going to run for president did all of a sudden you wanted to start saying Wakanda forever. And still during the whole thing, you wanted to go away from being black. Your first Southeast Asian woman for this. Your Indian mother. You and your Indian sister, right? No mention of your father and all this stuff or whatever, even though I know some of you want to say he wasn't whatever. But at the end of the day, if you know how this stuff works, Indians and Africans, same people. So regardless of how you want to put it, same people. But regardless, it didn't mean that much. Well, she went to an HBCU. She went to Howard and she spoke. She did her last thing at Howard and spoke. Yeah, but Howard allows persons of all colors, and just because you go to Howard doesn't mean that you're for your people. I mean, P. Diddy went to Howard. Is he for you? Right? Y'all don't want to be caught in the Diddy parties now. Right? Everybody wanted to go to a Diddy party, even when persons knew what happened at Diddy party, but y'all want to be in them. But Puff Daddy, he went to Howard too. How much does Howard like where he going? Is Howard going to treat him like they treated Bill Cosby and everything that Puff Daddy's giving them financially, are they going to give it back? Matter of fact, they don't give it back. They just take your name down. right? So I'm just saying, it's bigger than black white, but racism, white supremacy has you focusing on black white. That's why it has to be dismantled. It's not, as we said before, when you read the Willie Lynch letter, black persons had to be taught it, and so did white persons. We keep forgetting that, right? White isn't even a color. White means the absence of color. The whiter something is, the clearer it is, even translucent, so to speak, it is. The clearer it is. The whiter fur, the more you can see through the fur. Polar bear fur is not a color. Polar bear fur has no color. It reflects white. And it's designed for that too, because the goal is for the sun to come through it so they can get to the black fur underneath. White blood cells have no color. There's no such thing as a true white person. A true white person would be clear. A true white person, if there was such thing, would have to have no life, because you would have no color at all, because you would have nothing as far coming from your pineal gland. You would have nothing to give you any kind of color whatsoever. You'd have no life. The teaching was always inclusive, or all inclusive. So racism has to be taught in all inclusive. White persons have to be taught that there's a such thing as white. Black persons have to be taught that there's such thing as white. Black persons have to be taught there's such thing as black, or what it even means. And white persons have to be taught there's such thing as black and what that even means. Racism, white supremacy touches everybody and affects everybody. And has some of you having an argument. Like, some of you shouldn't even be arguing. If you're not racist, you're not racist. So if you hear the term racist, why are you arguing that you're not racist? If you're not racist, they're not talking about you. You know what I'm saying? But racism, white supremacy has you on such guard about it that you say stuff like you don't see color. If you don't see color, you shouldn't get behind the wheel of a car. You hear what I'm saying? If you can't see color, you're gonna have problems, even some problems with depth perception. So don't even get into that argument. If you're not racist, you're not racist. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. If I buy some shoes and them things is gonna hurt and cause me to some bunions, I'm not gonna buy the shoes. I'm gonna leave them there, right? If you walking around and somebody says, "Man, those shoes look painful," and you start going, "Man, what you talking about?" And these shoes, blah blah, whatever. It's probably because they're painful, and probably because you made a bad purchase, and you want to defend your purchase rather than just be like, "Well, if they're painful, let me take them off and buy something that's not as painful." If racism, white supremacy has made all of us go through pain, then maybe we should take those shoes off so that we can go ahead and start to alleviate the pain. And just because you take the shoes off doesn't mean that you won't have to do something to get them corns to come down. You're going to have to go get them corn patches. I ain't talking bad about you. I had to get them at some point in life too. Might have to get them again at some point. Who knows? Right? But you go to the store, you get them corn patches, you put it on there, and then you let the corn got to come off, and then you got to let some healing take place. You got to address them bunions if you got them bunions. You got them hard places on their shoe. I don't want to bring. I wouldn't even mind showing you. I just bought one when we went on the trip. I had to saw, not saw, but you be using that thing look like a grater. I had to grate some skin off my heels because I don't wear no shoes, so my feet be looking crazy. I didn't want SOC being embarrassed, taking sitting the stuff and sitting the tables and things like, because I don't really be caring about myself like that, to where it's like, shoot, if I walk in the dirt all day and I walk in shoes, flip flops and slides, then that's what my feet gonna look like. But not everybody want to see all that, But I'm just saying, all that, you gotta address some stuff. If you got some stuff that's been built up, address it so that your walk is better. A lot of you not walking in truth because you don't want to deal in proper context. How you doing, Shabbos? All right, let's keep moving. We'll be on a little longer because it's Sunday, but we're not gonna be on any longer, probably than like 11:20ish, 11:30ish. I promise you. We pretty much finished. So if you got to leave now, thank you. This is the normal time we would end. But if you want to stick around just for a little bit. Also, too, Thursday is going to be Q&A for us. Thursday will be Q&A for us. So it'll be the last Q&A of the year. Yeah, it'll be the last Q&A of the year. So Wednesday was going to be the truth about Christmas. Thursday is going to be Q&A for us. And then Friday through the end of the year is going to be nothing but just teaching on Sabbath and how we're going to keep it and certain things we're going to be doing at SOC from now on. Alrighty, just to give you a heads up. So Thursday's Q&A. All right, let's go to. Okay, so don't let flattery keep you from making changes. Flattery and so-called gifts and favors are some of the basic tactics and weapons Oh, we already did that. I'm sorry. Now, here we go. Do not use the term racial integration to describe any situation. Use the term elimination of racism. I love that one. Because y'all already know how I feel about this word. This word integration doesn't make sense unless you're going to be honest about it. Do you guys know what the word integrate means? And one of the biggest parts of the word integrate? How you doing, Lost Tribe? Right? Integrate means to become one, integral. It also means integrity. Integrity. So one must have integrity to integrate. How you doing, Brother Dwayne, if I didn't say so earlier? One must have integrity to integrate. You must become one. So if all so-called races, right, because race means competition, but y'all know what y'all mean nowadays. If all races, and if you don't know, let me not just leave that there. You know that the word race is interchangeable with the word species. So what happened is that you had these persons who believed in species. Then they believed that these species competed against one another. And they believed that therefore they had races. So you look at certain books, even in books by Darwin and stuff, for those of you who like Darwin and are into evolution, if that's what you're into, you'll even discover that they talk about animal races because these animal species are supposed to compete. Okay? So you have these races of animals. Then eventually they started saying, well, you come from animals. And different, then it became something where, what's his face? Carl Linnaeus, who's kind of like the OG before you get to Darwin. He started teaching that you had four races, species of human beings that came from different animals. The so-called white race, the so-called red race, the so-called yellow race, and the so-called black race. That was science. That still is in some books today, right? Then after that, Charles Darwin, he wrote his book and he made it longer. I can't remember if it was just 8, 12, 16, something like that, but he made it longer and said that these races come from different places. A lot of persons don't know this, but if you were to look up the actual title of Charles Darwin's book, it's called, you just know it as The Origin of Species, if you even know that, if you recall that from school. But the full title of it is actually, it was written in 1859, by the way, so that's during the Kansas Wars, right when you're getting ready to go into the Civil War, all that stuff. And it's written in 1859, and it's called The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Survival of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. And he's known as to be basically a Linnaean disciple. So if you don't know that, you don't even know what Charles Darwin's belief is. But once again, it permeates so much. And so we should get rid of this because none of us should be thinking that we're better than each other because of the color of our skin and that being the only determining factor. If that's your only determining factor, you're off. But you don't even realize when you talk about Darwin, Darwin's full title of that famous book. Now, he wrote other books. And then his cousin, right, not the one that he married, but his cousin who looked up to him, who was younger, then comes along later on and writes a book on eugenics. That's where you get eugenics from, because his younger cousin looked up to him and was like, oh, I dig what you're talking about. And once again, the full title of his book, actually it's longer, but they don't like this version of it, but it's actually longer than what I just said. It's actually The Origin of Species, the Origin of Species, the Theory of Evolution by Means of Natural Selection, or the Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. In other words, the survival of favored races in the struggle for life. In other words, certain races are to survive, right? Survival of the fittest is a religious cry by Charles Darwin, who never had a degree in anything other than preaching. Did you know that? So he actually preached the message of racism, white supremacy through the prism of the lens, right, of evolution. And those that look through that lens magnified Ishtar together, not knowing that Charles Darwin also was one who celebrated and worshipped the moon, Ishtar, where you get this term Easter from. You see? So racism, white supremacy, and all this stuff. And a lot of us are sitting up there, even when you talk evolution, a lot of persons don't want it. That's why evolution becomes a really hard sell in certain places that it didn't even used to be. Because once you know that evolution, the way, especially if you're coming from anything having to do with Darwin, you have to admit that Darwin's religion was to use Ishtar to be able to serve her in a manner that made sure that white persons would survive the struggle for life, and make sure that survival of the fittest were there. and that other persons of other races that were being competitive would not be able to survive ultimately, and his race would. This is not something that's going to be showed to you in documentation quite often, because if you say this, then you got to deal with even preachers that preach that they believe in some form of evolution. You got to dismantle churches. You got to dismantle scientists. You have to dismantle science books. Not all, but the ones that uplift racism, white supremacy. So since they don't want to go through that route, you let that theory live. Once again, it's a theory. The theory of evolution. A theory is not a fact. What, right? A theory is not a fact. Now, remember I told you that a fact doesn't even mean it has to be true, but a theory is not even considered to be a fact. A theory is laid out because we don't have all the facts. So that means the theory is not even supposed to be as powerful as a fact, and a fact has to have proper context in order for it to be considered to be true. So a fact is not truth. A fact is just somebody laying out what they found, but it could be a piece of evidence. A fact is a piece of evidence, but just because it's a piece of evidence doesn't mean we know how to use said evidence to interpret what actually happened. Are you with me, beloved? You seeing what's going on? So that's why we have to think properly, right? Right? A theory is not a fact. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the book. Forgive me. Right? Might feel like I went on a little tangent. We only got a few more minutes. Let's hashtag finish strong. There's a blessing coming of it. Expect the blessing is coming. All righty. Let's get back to the book. Excuse me. Hopefully you're getting some out of this. You're growing. You can see why it's something that the enemy doesn't want us to have. Alrighty. So do not use the term racial integration to describe any situation. Use the term elimination of racism. There is no such thing as racial integration. There is, and only can be, the existence of racism or the non-existence of racism. Racism either exists or it does not exist. There is no way to integrate racism. Oh, that's a word. There is no way to integrate racism. Racism can only be practiced or not practiced. So, in other words, it is a myth that somebody said integration healed racism. You said Darwin wasn't even a scientist, but got a BA in theology. Yeah, he got one given to. Oh, no, got a BA in theology. Excuse me. Yeah, and his family purchased it. right. So hear what I'm saying. Or hear what Neely Fuller's saying. I agree. We've talked this before. He's just using. We're almost the very words that we use when we talk this before. He's saying the same thing. Right. Watch this. Neely Fuller is telling us straight up. Neely Fuller Jr., Mr. Fuller is telling us with all certainty, you can't talk about integration, integrity, integral, everybody being one. Because if you believe in multiple races and you believe in racism, then that means that there's either racism or there's not. You cannot integrate through the prism of racism. In other words, if there's a racist system, you cannot use persons that the system says are different and bring them together as one and say that gets rid of racism. Does that make sense? Right? Like if race, I hope I'm saying this the correct way, right? I hope it's making sense. How you doing, Joy Boy? I can't have a system of racism, white supremacy that says that you're not supposed to get together and have the same system in place and say, well, I'm not getting rid of the system, everybody's going to be integrated. It doesn't make sense. Let me flip it. Maybe you're not getting it that way. Maybe you don't like it. Maybe it doesn't sound cool the way I'm saying it, right? Because I get I'm messing with somebody's mindset, maybe even your theology a little bit. Let's say it like this. I cannot have racism, a system that's set up of oppression where everybody's against each other, and then say what we're going to do is say everybody become one. I'm going to flip it a little bit. Because technically speaking, everybody's already integrated into racism. Did you catch that? Persons of all races can come get a piece of this racism. I can't integrate you into what already exists, beloved. right? Like you already in it. How am I going to integrate you into what already exists? Either you're integrated into racism or you're integrated into non-racism. There's only one system we're dealing with, racism and white supremacy. That's why we got to get into the kingdom. Kingdom is outside, right? So if you want to get rid of racism, you have to get rid of the system. The system is racism. If the system, watch this, the system is based off of certain persons, not all white persons, certain persons on top and certain persons on the bottom, though. And everybody else has been given a place where they're supposed to be slotted in. And no matter where you go in the world, it has affected the minds of everyone. It's poisoned the minds of everyone. In different countries, continents, colors, whatever the case might be. So if you're going to get rid of racism, white supremacy, or if you're going to talk about integrating everybody, you can't do it with this system in place. The system has to either be demolished or you have to leave it. There's no middle ground. That's right. The system either has to be demolished or you must separate from it. I don't care what the color of your skin is. If you still work for a government that is designed, right, and has been made, has been created upon the prism of racism, white supremacy, until you get rid of that government, you will be governed by that system. It doesn't matter how much you want to come out. It doesn't matter how many tongues you speak in. It doesn't matter how many times you go to your assembly. It doesn't matter what your theological decree is, right? Or your theological degree is in. It doesn't matter. You are going to be in that system. And if you happen to be a house Negro and you're in racism, white supremacy, you're just as problematic as some of the persons who are white saying that they're not part of the thing too. Because just because you live in the attic of the house, right, doesn't mean that you out of racism, white supremacy. Matter of fact, here's something that I don't think persons even catch. All right, we just got to tell the truth. Look, the persons don't even catch this. There's the house and the plantation, right? You have the plantation over here and the house over here. Is that correct? I need to just talk back to me real quick because we're gonna fix something real quick. If you can talk back to me, I know there's not as many of us on as usual, but it is what it is, right? Hey, there's the house and there's the plantation, correct? Or the house and the plantation. Is that correct? Is that a correct statement that I just made? Yes? Okay, watch this. Watch this. You ready? That's incorrect. Because the house is on the plantation. Oh, we about to mess with somebody's mind. You thought the house was separate from the plantation. But no. The house is on the plantation. Massa's house is on the plantation. So even if you live in the house, you still on the plantation, Negro. You thought because you was in the attic, wasn't on the plantation? Go to Mount Vernon. That's George Washington's plantation. Go to his house. The house is on the plantation. Go to Monticello. That's Jefferson's house. The house is on the plantation. Matter of fact, go see where Jefferson's buried. His grave is on the plantation. That's why you can't get rid of it and you can't give it to somebody else because he's buried in the house. It became his family's by his body being there, right? The house is on the plantation. And even when you go to these places, they're not even as big as they used to be. They've cut some of it down. We had a family reunion. I want to say, wow, this was a while ago. This might be 8 years ago, 9 years ago. No, more like maybe 7 years ago. And we went there, whatever, we went to Tennessee and family reunion, and we went to the place, and I knew as soon they took us on a tour, but before they said anything, I could see. I was like, oh wow, this is huge. It's huge, acres and stuff. And I just saw all the houses and stuff. I was like, this thing used to go all the way down to the water, didn't it? And sure enough. But the house is in the center, not always the center, but usually the house will be central. You guys remember even, what's a movie, a recent movie? This ain't even recent. This is old school. I don't know. I don't be thinking this stuff is old school because we act like it was 2 years ago. It's old, but whatever. Django and Chains, the modern Django, not the old school Django, but the Django with Jamie Foxx. When they get to Candyland, or even when they go to the plantation, to where they end up, taking the lives of the brothers or whatever that did what they did to him, did what they did to his wife and all that stuff, right? both times you get there, where is the house? The house is on the plantation. Matter of fact, if you do some research, we talked about this before. When we meet up and I'm gonna start sending out the forms to everybody virtually. But those of you who said you're coming, be ready to come. And I would ask you guys, please, sir, please, ma'am, if you can get about $50, $75 together, at least by, I say, the middle of January, if you can put that together, as be ready when we say we need like a half, at least part of the donation. I don't even know if it'll be half, but part of the donation, at least for the hotels, because I'm gonna try to set it up where we're gonna be in the same hotel spot. We're gonna try to get that rate down for you, okay? Right, so if you can do that for me, appreciate, love you, right? No matter how many families are coming, we're talking about room wise. So even if you can do that, and I can give them a certain amount, even if y'all gonna share rooms, some of you, or whatever the case, or if you bring in whole families, it can at least get us to a place where we can start making sure y'all will be straight, and we can get to the same place. All right. But anyways, when we go to, we might. I wasn't even gonna consider doing this, but it depends because we'd have to do some extra walking for this. But if you guys don't mind walking about, I say 15 minutes outside of the National Mall, 15, 20 minutes or so outside the National Mall, we'll go to the White House. And when you see the White House, you'll see that everything around it now looks like it. Well, not everything. You'll see certain places where it's still a lot of grass and all that. But for the most part, it's buildings and businesses and all the stuff around it, right? The reality of the situation, though, is that all of Washington, D.C. was a plantation. The White House was the manor. That's how that works. So just because you was a slave in the White House didn't mean that you ain't living Foggy Bottom. Maybe we'll even do a trip. We don't even have to get off there, but maybe we'll do a trip where we get on the train and we'll just get off at the metro station called Foggy Bottom. Because when you go up there now, it's just a college and it's, affluent stuff and it's overpriced apartments and all this other stuff, right? The George Washington University Hospital's right there. But so you won't even see, but all that was swampland. That was the Foggy Bottom. It's still swampland, right? I would suggest if you come into DC, make sure you're ready for mosquitoes, right? If we sit down and we eat on the National Mall on the grass, or if the baby's going to carousel, or if we walking to and from back and forth in different places, or you're going into the place that has the all the plant life and everything in it, bring some stuff for you to keep bugs off you, right? Whether you're going to do natural or spray off or whatever, just be ready to deal with some of that stuff because you go into swampland. But when you go across, that was all. The White House ain't nothing more than where the massa was, and everybody up until the 18th president was a slave owner, right? If you were in the White House, you had slaves. That's who ran the White House. Even Abraham Lincoln, if you lived in the White House, you had slaves. George Washington, who was slave owner, who put this stuff together and got got Virginia, Maryland to give up land to make Washington D.C. initially. He's the only one that didn't live in it because it wasn't finished by the time. And had he done a third presidency, he had to get out during the second term because everybody started hating him because they realized he was on some stuff. But from the second president on, from John Adams on, everybody who was in there, slaves. And you had overseers, and you had everybody living around that were the slaves that huge percentage outnumbered any other so-called race that was there. But that's what's there. So a lot of persons don't recognize the separation. Like if you live in Master's house, if you think you done got to another level, ma'am, sir, you're still on the plantation. You said Florida got a place. They got a few places called plantation. Right? Pensacola, I've seen a place called plantation. I want to say Tampa, there's something called plantation. I didn't get a chance to look at it though. What is that place? It's above. It's not. It's up. It's north on 95, up from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, North Fort Lauderdale, St. Port Lucie. They got stuff that's clearly plantation land up there. I think that's what I'm thinking of. There's another place over there that's near St. Port Lucie that we visited some of SOC earlier earlier this year. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's all over the place, right? Obviously, Illinois, one of the places nobody even talks about, is a bunch of plantations over there. Look at where they had the bowl and stuff like that, the Negro Bowl and stuff like that, where they look at the obviously they don't call them plantations, but obviously if you had places where persons were being bred, the list goes on and on, right? Hey, you said you're a PSL? Okay. Oh, Pennsylvania, my greatness, we just go, oh, the Quakers said it. All the Quakers were against slavery. Punch Bowl or the Devil's Punch Bowl. Yeah, we can get, like I said, the list goes on. Don't forget Oregon, which have more sundown towns than probably just about any other state, maybe even including Texas, which is, I know that's a profound statement to make, right? It might not be true, but Oregon, pretty high up there in sundown towns. But once again, you have this mindset that, don't forget, then go into Canada. Nobody want to talk about what actually was going on in Canada and still goes on there. So, yeah. But anyways, so, that stuff is there. But don't make that mistake of thinking that just because you done got a promotion. I got a promotion. They must love me and my job. I don't know what y'all talking about. I make more money than y'all. This and that. Just because you in the house doesn't mean you are on the plantation. That's one of the things too, though, a trick of the enemy. That also means the overseer lives on the plantation and oftentimes lived worse off than the slaves. He just thought he was better because he could whip you and he could have his way with you as long as master allowed. Right? The wife thought she was better than you because she got to be uplifting everything, but then she had to have a rule made to make sure that she had to have a law put in place, right, to make sure that it was okay to take the lives of slaves because she was offering the children because her husband was out there, having sexual relations with the animals out there called N-word females, and they were having babies, and those babies had just as much right to the land, come to find out when it came to law, as her children did, and she started stomping the children out. Not hers, but of course the ones that were the N-word females, because they weren't real anyways. They had to come up with a whole law in the 1600s to make sure that they protected that. They had to protect their woman because she couldn't go to jail for that, not for just some N-word, whatever. Right? I'm just saying. But we don't want to talk about that. She was on the plantation too. She started doing evil work too. Massa was on the plantation. He was kind of trapped. He ain't have as much say so off the plantation. I mean, he did in certain circles, but he's a master of the plantation. You think he was anything? He got to make sure the plantation runs. Where else he gonna be master like that? He was fighting against capitalism, trying to come down. That's what the whole Civil War was about. Was capitalism, the North, right? Who was going to keep chattel slavery versus chattel slavery, the South. Chattel slavery, who was going to keep capitalism, but one had to be above the other. And when he lost, right, he had to come up with a new form of plantation. That plantation now is called prisons, halfway houses, transitional homes. Oh yeah. What else? What else you call that? The bond place. Y'all forgive me. When you got to pay the bond to get out of prison, I'm having a moment here, but you know what I'm talking about. They'd be like little corner stores, right? They'd be having the bondsman come. You go there, you pay ridiculous bonds and stuff, even though the person hasn't even been put on trial yet or anything like that. Bail bond. Thank you. Right. Okay. But let's finish up. Let's finish up. There is no such thing as racial integration. There is no such thing as racial integration. There is and only can be the existence of racism or the non-existence of racism. Racism either exists or it does not exist. There is no way to integrate racism. Racism can only be practiced, not practiced. When racist and or suspected racists point out your faults, listen to them. Watch this. I wanted to make sure we got this in. There's the last point for today. When racists and or suspected racists point out your faults, listen to them and examine what they say. Seek the truth and use the truth in a manner, not the fact. Remember, there's difference here. Seek the truth. So even the racist might have constructive criticism, might not. Might give you something where it's a lie, but you've learned about the lie, but listen to them. Listen to what they're saying. Right? Don't do what they do, which is not listen to you and end up looking crazy in their apologetics. Listen to them. Right? When racists and or suspected racists point out your faults, listen to them and examine what they say. Seek the truth and use the truth in a manner that best promotes justice. That means non-racism, white supremacy, and correctness. Do not be ashamed to call a fault a fault. Also, point out the faults produced and or promoted by racism, white supremacy as being greater than all other faults. In other words, even if we're at fault, even if there's things we're going through, if it's due to racism, white supremacy, be okay with saying, I need to correct that. That being said, if I stay in racism, white supremacy, I can't correct it, which means that either you got to get rid of racism, white supremacy, you got to stop supporting it, or I just got to separate from you. And that's okay. You catch that? Right? Listen to them. Even if they're the so-called racists, listen to what they have to say and take it down, write it down. They might be giving you game by lying to you, or they might be telling you a truth that you need to change. And you need to not be governed. You're not going to be able to change it through their prism anyways, through that lens. So be ready to separate if necessary. Know thyself, right? And know thyself enough to know that you're not perfect. And even the racist, white supremacists might be able to point out something that you need to become better at. You just need to realize you won't be able to get better through them. All right, watch this. Victims of racism should always seek truth. The truth about all people, both white and non-white, is that they all have many, many faults. The major fault of too many of the smartest and most powerful people, right, which is in this system, is supposed to be who? White people. So this is a fault of so-called white people. I know you're not going to want to hear this, but once again, it said we all have faults in humanity, but you need to recognize that you have some faults too. And here's one of the biggest, here is what's considered, at least as far as considering what, through the prism of what Neely Fuller Jr. is seeing. He says the major fault of too many of the smartest and most powerful people, which in this system is supposed to be who? White people, is that they have chosen to speak and or act as racist and white supremacists. Because of this choice, these white people are at fault on a greater scale than all of the non-white people of the known universe combined. Large numbers of white people were given the knowledge and power to eliminate fault, which is what? Continuing things in racism, white supremacy. So large numbers of so-called white people were given the knowledge and power to eliminate fault among the people of the known universe and replace it with justice and correctness. Instead, many of them have used that knowledge and power to establish racism, white supremacy, and to use racism as the end product of and the reason for the contentious promotion of falsehood, non-justice, and incorrectness. Do not restrict yourself to the use of only those titles given to you by others, and or to only those titles used by others to describe you. Use any one or more titles that you choose for yourself when you know that such titles describe you on a basis of what you are actually doing at the exact time that you are doing it. For example, what did we say? So these are the titles that if you're going to take on these titles that are given, make sure that you know that you are actually doing this at the exact time. I'm sorry. Use any one or more titles that you choose for yourself when you know that such titles describe you on a basis of what you are actually doing at the exact time that you are doing it. That's how law works, by the way. Right? If you're driving, it's because you're driving under a company. But if you're traveling, you can be doing the same action, but it means something different at a different time. All right? So watch this. So these are titles that we're given. Very last thing for today. I'm just going to read these titles. We don't even have time to go over them. Like I said, there's a whole book, long book. Make sure that you go through it. You're supposed to go through it on your own, at your own pace, trying to make sure that you help to make sure that we get back to justice and correctness. All right. But last thing for today, I'm going to read these examples. Okay. So once again, use any one or more titles that you choose for yourself when you know that such titles describe you on a basis of what you were actually doing at the exact time and that time that you are doing it. Examples: business person, a person engaged in a special task. Follower, a person who follows. Foreigner, stranger or different. Investigator, a person who seeks to know or understand. Laborer, a person who works physically or mentally. Merchant, a person who buys anything or sells anything. Official, any person who is doing his or her duty. Police person, a person who speaks and acts to promote justice and correctness. Now, I would disagree with that, but he's saying if you're actually a police person, that's what we say by code you should be. Politician, a person who relates to and or he who is involved with people. Preacher, A person who offers information and makes suggestions. I like that one kind of. So it's not complete, but I kind of like that. Private person, a person who does not relate to and or is not involved with any other persons. Now we know if we were talking about straight up law, private persons are those who stay away from the government, are not in the public sector, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So that's what we would be talking about. Let's keep on going. Sorry. So what we say, politician. Oh, a private person. Next up, psychologist, a person who studies how people think and act. We would say person who studies the soul, right? Psychology. Um, let's see, public person, a person who relates to and or who is involved with people or somebody who's under the government, right? Soldier, a person who works with a specified cause. Now, a lot of persons don't know that. That's why you can be a soldier in the army of the Lord, and you can be a soldier for Uncle Sam. What is a soldier? A soldier, a person who works for a specified cause. Specialist, a person who specializes in a particular work or study. In the army, you just saw two things that describe you, right? There are specialists and there are soldiers. Not every soldier is a specialist. Not every specialist, well, actually, every specialist in the military is a soldier, right? Student, a person who studies or investigates. Victim, a person who is or has been treated unjustly. And then writer, a person who writes, right? Now, giving you all those things, but once again, you got to remember who you are and what you're doing at the moment. Because a writer is not always a writer. Right? Now, you're talking about the gift, you're talking about this, but see, he's saying be careful because persons will try to put you in stuff. And in this system, they're supposed to put you in all these different categories. He's saying they're supposed to put you in all the different categories, but you have to break out of that by realizing even if you got to do that for a job, okay, fine, I'm doing that for a job. But when I come home, right, if I'm supposed to be, I don't know, if I stock shelves, if I'm a shelf stocker, right, when I come home, let go of shelf stocking. Don't bring that into your house, right? Don't bring that into your next business. You hear that? You hear that? So okay, but we'll leave it there. Thank you all. It's past 11:30, so I'm not gonna continue to go. It's family day for us here. We will do our 12 Myths of Christmas. We're not gonna be at 6 p.m. Eastern New York time tonight. We'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. So prayerfully, you guys can join us then. We'll do another, and we'll have our early rise of Bible study session tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. Eastern New York time, and we'll continue this live session. It will be on TikTok. If you're coming on TikTok, it'll be on TikTok, YouTube, the podcast, Facebook, and different places that we put pieces of it and stuff, Patreon pieces and stuff, etc. But just join us on TikTok. It'll be on more than likely Kofi_40, the original channel, the one you're on today, not on Kofi_43, due to the fact that they're trying to say, that we were saying racist things because we were trying to say that we should abolish racism, white supremacy. So, but praise Yah that we have other platforms to move on. So until December 30th, you'll see us on Kofi_40, the original channel, in the Rising. In the evenings, we'll be on Kofi_42 as normal. And I will be on Wednesday, right? I don't celebrate Christmas. That being said, I don't really take time off on worldly holy days. Wednesday is normally my day off, but we're going to do just like we do, but the truth about Easter, the truth about Thanksgiving, etc. We'll be doing the truth about Christmas and doing a teaching there. And then on Thursday, we'll actually have Q&A. And then after Thursday, for the rest of the year in the Rising, we're going to just be dealing with Shabbat. And so it'll kind of be Q&A really every Shabbat day too. I'll just kind of outline some things and then whatever questions you have. And I'm literally going to use the session. You'll see me typing up during the session in my notes. And we're going to use that to actually build an official way of, we're going to submit it to Sister Renee and everything and probably put it on the website maybe and stuff. But we'll have official documentation like this is what we do as far as Shabbat. And this is what we're going to keep. This is what we're going to ask even virtually, even on Saturdays, or if you're keeping the actual holy days, whatever. So we're going to be dealing with some of that because we need to get that more concrete. But thank you all. Preacher, love you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the moderators. Don't feel bad or down or anything. I know some persons being apologetic and stuff. It is what it is. Stuff slips through the cracks. Somebody didn't like what we were talking about. It is what it is. And that, by the way, this is why I love the moderators so much, especially the ones that deal with stuff on TikTok. Because real talk, Persons are always coming on and saying foolishness and doing stuff. And so some of y'all, when you be like, why don't you just let someone so cook? Why are you guys so quick to cut persons off? Because somebody gets into this stuff, they try to do things, they try to see if they can trap us, and they try to stop us from being able to use the platform. So I thank you, moderators, for doing what you do. Thank you for being obedient. Thank y'all for thank you guys for finding us. Always remember, that's why we say hashtag FindKofi. Look for us on different platforms. I promise you, we got something, even if it's a little bit of something. We even on X, even though we don't have anybody, what the former Twitter, we don't even really have anybody that follows us. But I still put stuff out there on there. I promise you. So we even used to do live sessions through Twitter. What is it called? Periscope. Even used to do a lot of Periscope. So I promise you, like we put a lot of information out. We try to do stuff. There's always a place to find us. And even if we need to start over, we've started over several times on these platforms. And Yah has been great, and you guys have been gracious and everything. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your hard work. It is family day, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my leave. I'm gonna let y'all do what y'all. Thank you again for being on with us, and we hope that you enjoy. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my leave. If you want to come over to TikTok and join us for the shout out, it's on Kofi_40, the original channel. If you want to come over and do a little shout with us, a little dancing and stuff like that with us, and feel free, you can go ahead and enjoy yourself and prepare yourself into the rest of the day. I do not believe. I think last week we did with Minister Yahashavai. By the way, keep her in prayer as she's recovering from sickness. We did When Life Happens with her. Please check out Minister Anais podcast. Continue to check out Brother Jermaine and his shirts and stuff like that, as well as Bruda. Let's support Sister Mavis out here baking her little heart out. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mavis. Right, we gonna go ahead and partake. Praise Yah. I got to save this one for Family Day. So, Sister Mavis, you need a heart today. Amen. But thank y'all. I love y'all to life. Hope you guys take care. How you doing, Sister Angela? Support each other. Support the businesses. Support Sister Taya, who's bright light on here. I'm gonna try and send something. I meant to send something else, Sister Taya, to see what your Cash App or whatever it was, so I can see if I can send something to you. And see if I can get some product. Support Sister Akita with shea butter and the body soap. Let us support, by the way. I don't know if I said it on a live session yet. I think so, but our 3 ministers in training now. We're up to 3. Minister Select Raj in Florida. Minister Select Akita in Baltimore. Minister Select La Crystal in, I guess in the outskirts of New Orleans. So we're excited and grateful for them. They got some partners that are going to walk this walk with them too while they're getting their training. And we're going to start their training the second full week of January. I did send you guys a group text so you guys can tell me what you say is the best time and day for us to start training in January. And we'll probably have you guys start coming to the ministerial meetings as well. So we're thankful and grateful for you all. They'll be doing their initial sermons for Pentecost, so somewhere around late May, early June. And so we invite you guys to already put a little something on the calendar. Matter of fact, well, I'm gonna think it through because I just realized as we meeting, and so I guess it depends on when Pentecost is. We already gonna be meeting in May for the Okay, that might work itself out. Anyway, we'll see. But anyways, love y'all to life. You guys take care. We give our honor and praise to the Most High, Yahavah. We give our praise and honor then for my wife, the Honorable Alma, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Continues to support her with Bloom and Flourish so she can help you and help us to heal as diaspora. Also, to continue to support her in Changing Lives Initiative. If you'd like to help us to make sure that we're getting stuff out to everybody for the winter, jackets and things like that, maybe even food from time to time. We thank you for being involved and invested in that as well. So love y'all to life. You guys take care. Shalom. It will still be Shabbat right now. It's still going through the same. It follows the same day. So I say Shalom as of 6 p.m. Eastern New York time last night into 5:59. So our first day and their first day on their calendar, it matches up. So right now we are in accordance with the actual lunar Israelite calendar. And so we thank you all. But love y'all to life. You guys take care. Continue to do great things. I will talk to you guys later. And as always, remember that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. How you doing, Sister Dawn? Shalom to everybody. Peace. If you want to come over to TikTok, come on over so we can do this.